Slow down. Slow down. Let's go. Oh yeah. Okay, listen up, you know what? You don't gotta do that. Put the bottle back down, do not even roll that. Take your foot up off the pedal, park the car and roll back. You don't even need a gun, why you gotta hold that? People pulling triggers, killing brothers, they don't know that. Everything they do is photograph like a Kodak. By the most high, who's highest up in the sky, who judges all of our actions when after we die. People say I don't believe in him, I ain't getting caught. Well, why you always think you ended up in court? Why you think you always targeted by the police force? And our people never get married, they single, gay, and divorced. Never have enough money, but always spending the flaws, pretending
Rawchaa. Peaceful Sabbath bless you all. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Friday Night Sabbath, coming out of Babylon here on blogtalkradio.com for the Gathering of Christ Church. I'm your host, Brother Rawchaa, and with me in the studio we have Brother Shamna. It is 4:04 p.m. Central Standard Time on September the 5th, 2014. And hope brothers and sisters have had a great week. And also, as we get ready to prepare for the seventh day of the week, Holy Day, which scriptures refer to as the Sabbath, I pray that it is blessed as well. All right. As always, a lot of information to go through tonight. Be the Most High's will. Try to get through as much as we can. So before we get started, I want to give all praises to the Most High Ahaya in the name of His Son, Christ Yeshua, having the opportunity to partake in another one of His holy days, the seventh day of the week, Sabbath, and also the opportunity to be able to broadcast here on blogtalkradio.com for the Gathering of Christ Church for you brothers and sisters out there that are continuing to remain vigilant and sober-minded here in these last days, who are hungry and seeking the truth, knowledge, and wisdom. All right. For those new listeners, or those who may not be aware, what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through some church announcements and go through the different ways that you can keep in touch with and contact, follow along with the Gathering of Christ Church. All right, so actually Blog Talk Radio is on at the current moment 4 nights out of the week. You have every Friday night Sabbath, coming out of Babylon. The show time for that is 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Pacific time. The website that you can listen is www.blogtalkradio.com/GOC If you want to call in, you can call in through your phone, 646-200-4309. If you have a comment or question, simply press the number 1. At any time, it'll put you into the guest call queue, and we go to segment 2. We will go into the calls and take your call in order that we receive them. The 4th hour is overtime, so if you're listening through the computer or through the internet, you will get cut off. If you want to go into the 4th hour, you must either call in through the guest call-in number or Skype in through the website. Okay, and once the 4th hour starts, you cannot get into the show. Every Sunday, we have Hebrew Culture is Life, hosted by Brother Xavier, Gathering of Christ Church, California. And the show time for that is 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. On Mondays, you have the Daughters of Zion, which is at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. And then on Wednesdays, we have the GOCC Search Engine International, hosted by Elder Rawchaa and Elder Lawya. That starts at, Elder Rawchaa and Elder GOCC, That starts at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 Central, 2 p.m. Pacific time. All shows are archived, so if you miss any of the shows, or if you want to go back and re-listen, they will be there in the archives for you to do so. All right, on Saturday, during the daytime, we have the Sabbath teaching on Ustream, hosted by Elder Rawchaa and Elder Lawya. The website for that is www.ustream.tv/channel/THE-GOC-church. Usually comes on around 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern time. Followed by that, you have the law class hosted by Elder Rawchaa out of New York, around 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Those also archived, so if you missed any of that, you can also go back into the archives on Ustream and listen. The website for the church is www.gatheringofchrist.org. Right now we have opened up a new part of the website, GOCC Net, and it's for small businesses, those who are entrepreneurs looking to take advantage of being an entrepreneur. You have the opportunity to join the Gathering of Christ Church GOCC network. Right now we have these companies. We have Organo Gold, organic coffee distributor, SaveGasAndMoney.info, a money-saving fuel product, Just Everything Natural, 100% natural body care products, custom designs by Sister Riri, custom-made Bible covers, meat-trees, and more, Truce Oils, affordable healthy oils, soaps, and lotions, Solutions by Lex, affordable career and business services, Our Continuous Growth, calendars, t-shirts, CDs, and more, Shea & Co. Consulting, professional legal advice, custom-made website design by Burton Web Designs, Hebrew flashcards, learning tools to help perfect your Hebrew language, Archibald and Associates, legal advice from certified paralegals. So if any of those things are, those services or products are what you may, consider useful to yourself, make sure that you go to the GOCC Net side of the website, check it out, support our brothers and sisters. Let's help build our communities from within while we, at the same time, disconnect ourselves from the beast system and supporting their corporations. All right. The actual email is goccnet@aol.com if you'd like to join. If you have any general church questions or want to join the Bible Hebrew Academy, the email address is gathering@aol.com. All right, and the phone number for the church, 888-334-3330. If you're in the Texas area, you're looking for fellowship, baptism, anything along those lines, you can send us an email, gocctexas@ymail.com, or you can call 972-793-7068. All right, that's it for the church announcements. We're going to go ahead and get ready for segment 1, news, current events, and Bible prophecy. I'm going to go ahead and play some new music, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Shabbat Shalom, we're back, and we're going to get the scripture for the broadcast, which is Matthew chapter 24, verse 20. And it reads, "But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day." All right, so the reason why the broadcast is titled Friday Night Sabbath is because the Sabbath day, which is the 7th day of the week, is still in effect, starting at Friday night to Saturday night, making up the 7th day. And we see here prophetic scripture of the Messiah speaking about it prophetically to let you know that it is a continuous cycle that never changes. All right, the Sabbath did not end with the death and resurrection of the Messiah. I know in Christianity, they teach that Christ rose on Sunday, the first day of the week, and we are to keep Sunday as the new Sabbath, but that's nowhere in the scriptures. You read the book of Acts, the disciples kept the Sabbath day, and that was after the resurrection of the Messiah. So coming out of Babylon is putting down the paganism and the false worship, all the false worships that we've been taught. Also, Matthew 24 is a prophetic verse dealing with the desolation of abomination. And in Matthew 24, Christ warns of many things. One thing is to pray, to watch and pray always. So even on the Sabbath day, we must watch and pray as we are warned. The enemy will attack and has attacked time and time again on the Sabbath day for those true worshipers and followers of the Most High. So Friday, we like to get your Sabbath started off by going into news, current events, Bible prophecies as things are getting crazier and crazier in the world. Everywhere you take a look around, you're seeing more and more bizarre things happening, things that can't be explained, things that are just total confusion, and trying to get some answers. Well, the answers are in the scriptures. All right, so we try to tie what's going on in the world with the news and current events to Bible prophecy to let our people know that the Bible is real, that it is the truth, to come out of these religions, that there is no truth in these religions. Truth is in the Word. All right, so even though you want to, those that do keep the Sabbath, you want to keep it as a holy day instead of part day, which it is, we must also be mindful of the times that we are in. The days are evil. It must be on our P's and Q's at all times. So, here lately, there have been a lot of, or at least a few beheadings that have been happening in the Middle East under this new super terror group called ISIS. All right, you've had Foley, you've had this other guy, I think his name was Sotloff, and you're seeing that these people, these so-called journalists, are being beheaded. And we spoke about this last week in short detail about the Foley footage was actually deemed as a fraud by the experts, that it was not a real situation happening there from what they tell us it was, and that it was being used for war propaganda. And as you take a look around with more and more of these beheadings, you're seeing the media pushing and putting pressure on the American government to declare war on ISIS. All right, and in attempts to have the American people pour in their full support behind their country to go to war in Iraq and Syria and in the Middle East against ISIS. Not knowing that these are events that are staged to bring about war, that they are to incite your emotions and have you feel a certain type of way. They're false flags. There was a brother, there was a brother that called in last week. We were in segment 2, and he brought up something that I did some research on about the beheading ritual and ceremony that's within Freemasonry. It's actually on the Arab side of the Freemasonry. So I want to go into some detail on this ritual and what it means, and it's going to take us into our next article. We'll actually transition right into our next article based upon these things and what we're seeing here. All right, so this information I'm reading comes off of cuttingedge.org. It says here, Arab secret society has symbol of cruel beheading for degrees 9 through 11. Nick Berg beheading update. All right, so I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was a contract worker named Nick Berg back in 2004 who was beheaded. And this article was actually put together based upon that beheading. And as we fast forward to today, we're seeing the same thing happening again. What does it mean? What does it really mean? We know about the war propaganda and them wanting to incite war and use it as a justify and a means to go to war, but it has a spiritual meaning for those who know have the esoteric meaning those on the inside of these secret societies know exactly what this ritual means. So let's read this here, so we can get some understanding on what's being shown before us. So it says, why was Nick held by Iraqi police for 13 days and coalition forces for 11? Did you know that black magic Freemasonry has a symbol for degrees 9 through 11, or 9/11, which depict a decapitated head by a short sword, a symbol depicting the destruction of the old order so the new world order can be established? Why do we see an occult signature to this event? Who benefits from this beheading? The New World Order is coming. Are you ready? Once you understand what this New World Order really is and how it is being gradually implemented, you will be able to see it progressing in your daily news. All right, and it says here, not going to go into what happened in 2004 too much. It says here, the cruel decapitation of American contract worker Nick Berg shocked peoples of the world, many of whom had thought they were beyond shock at this point. After all, we have been inundated with images of horror, terror, war, torture, and sexual degradation to a degree unheard of in the modern age, all occurring after 9/11. Truly, everything did change because of the attacks of 9/11. Now, this was back in 2004 when this was put out, talking about how bad things had gotten. But really, when you look at that, it's child's play compared to how things are now 10 years later in 2014. Horror, terror, war, torture, and sexual degradation have now become the norm. They have become, within our minds as being normal. And you can't go anywhere without it being right in front of your face. In all forms of our society, no matter where you go, it's there being bombarded on your psyche. All right. It says here, Memphis Mitzrayim, Arabic Freemasonry, degrees 9 through 11, Black Magic Freemasonry. One of our researchers discovered a little-known Arabic black magic Masonic group called Memphis Mitzrayim, also spelled Memphis and Mitzrayim. As you can see, this Masonic group had its symbol for degrees 9 through 11, a depiction of human decapitation by an Arabic short sword or long knife. This symbol is shown here on a rather typical Masonic apron. As I examined this symbol, I could not help but think how closely it paralleled the horrific beheading of Nick Berg. Right? And you fast forward to 2014 and you have the newest beheadings of Sotlov and Foley. And people are saying, oh, how horrific, how these ISIS terrorists could behead these journalists. All right, so we see the same thing happening. It says here, the Masonic symbol closely parallels the reality of Nick Berg. His head was severed by a strong executioner wielding an Arabic short sword or long knife. After the symbolic beheading was completed, the executioner held the severed head up by grasping his hair, blood dripping off both the knife and out of the neck of the victim, just as Nick's head was held up very soon after his beheading. Is this parallel simply coincidence? What is this shadowy group of Arabic Freemasons who go by the name Memphis Mitzrayim? As part of my research, I contacted Bill Snoblin, former Satanist Freemason and Mormon. All right, and Bill Snoblin was actually on one of the blog talks. I think it was the Wednesday night. Had him on, and he has a lot of work that's out there dealing with Freemasonry and all the secret societies, and a lot of insight because he, at one point, was involved deeply those societies. It says here, Memphis Mitzrayim is a little-known Masonic group based upon Arabic and Egyptian magic. As such, they are deeply satanic and very powerful throughout the Middle East. Any Arabic Mason who dares to disobey the edict of the top commander of Memphis Mitzrayim stands in dire danger of death. This group is very powerful and feared. However, their top commander is controlled by the top leadership of international Illuminized Freemasonry. This latter revelation struck me strongly, for this means that if the Illuminati is pursuing a deliberate blood-in-the-street strategy of deliberately provoking a war, this incident could not have been better orchestrated. The Muslims are now enraged by our deliberate destruction and desecration of their mosque, by our killing of large members of civilians, and by the torture and sexual degradation scandal in military prisons. Now the Western side is in danger of being radicalized by this beheading. Getting both sides in a conflict engaged with one another is one sure way to start a war. Now let us turn to some other research that tells us more about Memphis Mitzrayim. And again, this was back in 2004, and we see how things have quickly progressed to where we are now in 2014. With everything now, the media is bombarding upon the minds of the masses with ISIS. And notice this is an Egyptian and Arabic magic-based group. So what better name to name this new terrorist group, ISIS, which is named after the Egyptian goddess. Memphis was the capital of ancient Egypt, and Mitzrayim is the actual name of Egypt. All right. It says here, the Masonic grade of 9th degree is up to its neck in Tatian ritual. Anthony Hoffman could only mean that the Masonic grade of 9th degree is obsessed with decapitation ritual. This type of obsession with death is common to all degrees of black magic satanic secret societies. The secret society which President George W. Bush is a lifelong adept is similarly obsessed with death. Its main symbol is the crossed skull and crossbones with the number 322 in the middle. Just a few days ago, the Rutherford Institute ran an interesting article reporting the reality that both President Bush and Senator Kerry are lifelong adepts in skull and bones. In this expose, this article captured this obsession with death. Since its inception in 1832, Skull and Bones has grown into a shadowy elite society that selects 15 members each year from the senior class of Yale University, using high-tech night vision equipment to peer into the inner courtyard of the Skull and Bones headquarters, called the Tomb in New Haven, Connecticut. Rosenbaum claims to have witnessed the elements of this strange organization's rituals. According to Rosenbaum, the rituals begin with a figure dressed like a devil, another one in a hooded skeleton costume, and others in robes chanting what Rosenbaum calls the death mantra. The three-line Skull and Bones initiation theme that has bound 3 U.S. presidents, including George W. Bush, to their secret society. The hangman equals death. The devil equals death. Death equals death. Skull and Bones has the characteristics of a death cult, of the lore surrounding it centers on its death fixation. In fact, the entire secret society revolves around death-centered imagery. The initiates are told that they must die to the barbarian world and be born again in the company of the elect, or as they call it, the order. A macabre report has also surfaced that the initiates spend time during their senior year in the basement crypt of the Bones tomb, taking turns lying in a coffin. Moreover, in 2 long, intense psychodrama sessions in these coffins, the initiates lie naked and recount their personal and sexual history to the 14 other chosen ones. So this is what goes on within these secret societies, the reason why they do what they do in darkness, and that you will never be able to enter into a lodge unless you go through the gates that are required for initiation. All right, you must actually go through the steps of being approved and then go through the rituals in order to get into the lodge to see what's really going on. It says here, if you want more detailed information on Skull and Bones, including a complete membership roster, we carry Fleshing Out Skull and Bones in our bookstore. Obsession with death is one of the oldest characteristics of any satanic secret society. But why should we be too surprised? For the Bible warns us, all who hate me love and court death. Proverbs chapter 8, verse 36. So again, when we look in our society, there was a fad for a moment that was really, I guess, trendy. That really is probably not as trendy now, but still, people are still, draping themselves with this particular attire and imagery. But for a while there, everybody had skulls on everything. Skulls on their clothes, skulls on their phone covers, the to protect their phones, you know, putting skulls on their cars or wherever they could put a skull where they get tattooed on them. Everybody was skulled out. And again, it's Satan getting you to worship death, because the Most High is the power of life. And we know that Christ conquered death. He has the keys to death. And it's through death that Satan is able to put fear into us so that he can have his way with us. All right, so we must recognize this, and this is what's going on within these secret societies. They worship death. So it says here, whenever you see anyone or any organization depicting and loving symbols of death, you may know of certainty that that person or group hates God and may very likely be caught up in occult practice. Illuminati control of Memphis, Mitzrayim, Arabic Freemasonry. Dr. Kathy Burns unravels the historic story as to how modern Illuminati incorporated Memphis, Mitzrayim, Arabic Freemasonry into their most important, highly secret rite called the Palladium Rite. It says here, knowing of Pike's admiration for Lucifer, talking about Albert Pike, the father of Freemasonry in the 19th century in America, it says we shouldn't be astonished to find out that Pike created a Palladium Rite, which was a secret rite that openly worshipped Lucifer and practiced blatant occultism. This rite was to be kept secret at all costs, and only a chosen few were selected. The Palladium, we are told, would be an international alliance of key Masons. It would bring in the Grand Lodges, the Grand Orient, the 97 degrees of Memphis, Mitzrayim, the ancient and primitive rite, and the Scottish rite. The name Palladium was taken from a Masonic order founded in 1720, which died out, only to re-emerge in Charleston under Pike. And this comes from the book by Dr. Kathy Burns, Hidden Secrets of the Eastern Star, Chapter 4, A Look at Baphomet, page 116. It says, now, this is hot news. Albert Pike created a super secret, very powerful Luciferian group within a group called the Palladium Rite. This rite combined the Grand Lodges, Grand Orient, all degrees of Memphis, Mitzrayim, and the Scottish Rite. Therefore, high-level Freemasonry contains the entire Arabic practice of Memphis, Mitzrayim, and totally controls the separate modern-day Arabic Masonic Lodge operating throughout the entire Middle East. Is it possible this beheading was an Illuminist ritual killing designed to further the blood in the street strategy of starting a regional war between Islam and the West? Now remember, Albert Pike wrote his letter to Manzini about the 3 world wars. And in the 3rd World War, he talked about a war between Islam, the Muslims, and the West, or Judeo-Christendom. And we see here, Albert Pike merged all these lodges, all these groups within Freemasonry together under this death of ritual of beheading. So to show you who's controlling what's going on in the Middle East, the secret societies of Freemasons, this has been a plan for theirs for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And these are rituals that we're seeing happening right before our very eyes. When we're watching these things on the media, the reason these media put these things into our minds, into our subliminals, and our subconscious is to program, all right, and to condition us in these rituals which they look at as magic, black magic, witchcraft, sorcery. And the reason why they use numerology, occult numerology, with what they do. All right, so it says here, so for anybody doubting any of this information, it's all documented within Freemasonry under Albert Pike. He has his book, Morals and Dogma, and he has his letter that he wrote to Manzini about the 3 world wars. And we're reading about Memphis, Mitzrayim under all the orders that and the sects that Albert Pike brought together under Freemasonry. It says here, as we stated above, this beheading is certain to cause a great deal of anger within the West, and if it continues, will certainly bring the West to the point of all-out war. All right, and we see that happening right now in the media with them trying to incite anger behind these beheadings. It says, as U.S. investigation of the torture and sexual degradation charges moves slowly forward, the gradual release of sensitive images is certain to continually build up Muslim rage against the West. So this is what all the drone strikes are for, all the offenses that America and the West are doing to the Arabic world, because you do have those Arabs who are very moral in what they believe. And they're not like America and the West, an immoral society. Yeah, they may be worshiping the wrong God, the wrong power, but they are a very moral people. They believe in dignity to a degree, to a level that you would definitely see the difference between them and Western society. So they're continuing to build up this rage to incite, as Albert Pike said, the Muslims against the West. Let's see, where we leave off at. Here it says, mystical meaning assigned to this Memphis Mitzrayim beheading symbol. Let us now examine the occult mystical meaning behind the symbolism of the decapitated head. 9th, 10th, and 11 degrees, mystical symbol meant to convey spiritual truths. The symbols are represented by a dagger and a bloody head slashed from the body of a sleeping man. The man asleep symbolizes mortal sense, liberty, and justice, and that a beheading must take place before a higher expression of life can arise. Spiritually interpreted, the sleeping man is mortal consciousness, which must undergo a change of intelligence, lose the head or old state of mental development before truth, the Spirit of Christ, can arise in the soul. This is comparable to the Bible story of the beheading of John, which represents the passing over to a higher plan of expression of the intelligence and love gained in the lower self. Bill Snowblin concurred that this is one valid explanation of this beheading symbol. What this symbolism is likely to mean to the Illuminati at this point in time is that the sleeping man whose head was severed represents the old world order, that order of things as they now stand. As we have reportedly stated, the Illuminati hates this industrial civilization and fully intends to bring it crashing down, to be replaced by an agrarian civilization like that which existed in Europe 300 to 400 years ago. So just within that, going back to what we've said over and over again, is that the Illuminati created America in 1776, the same year the Illuminati was established under Adam Weishaupt in Bavaria. And their whole purpose was to bring America up, only to bring America crashing down, and to take things back to Europe, as we just read here, just as the scriptures tell us, that the 10 horns will hate and burn the whore, and then they will receive power 1 hour with the beast, knowing that those 10 horns represent the European Union. They're bringing things back to how they were under the agrarian civilization which existed in Europe 300 to 400 years ago. It says here, the Spirit of Christ mentioned in the paragraph above is likely the occult Gnostic Christ consciousness spirit, so commonly identified with Antichrist. When the sleeping man dies, his death is viewed by the occultist as good, benevolent, necessary, so the New World Order can be brought into reality. We have reportedly stated that our purpose in invading Iraq was to trigger the all-out regional war that would then trigger the world war, plus the planned terror attacks that will crash the old world order. All right, because in order to bring in the New World Order, they must first crash the old. They must first get rid of America so they can bring in this New World Order. Just as the Bible foretold that the final birth pain, sorrows that finally give birth to the spirit of Antichrist will be wars and rumors of wars. So the Illuminati looks upon the staging of their Christ as a birth through war. The war in Iraq to trigger this World War III, the final birth pangs. And again, we saw America go into Iraq leave Iraq and now looking to go back into Iraq. But you got to ask yourself, did America ever leave? When America goes into a country, does America actually ever leave that country? You look at Vietnam, you look at Korea, all those were wars at one point. America still is in those countries. America has, what is it, military bases in like around 200 countries. So America is everywhere with her military and what the scriptures say, the wine of the wrath of her fornication. All nations have drunk from it. America has polluted the whole world. And it says, truly, Western civilization is a sleeping man today. Our citizens all throughout the Western countries are truly asleep, spiritually and politically. Never in history have so few leaders been able to completely deceive so many citizens. When the war finally begins and citizens of all democratic countries begin to lose their cherished freedoms and rights, the head of the sleeping man will roll. Again, this was in 2004, and we can definitely say since then what these leaders have been doing, particularly Barack Obama, in putting people to sleep and being able to deceive and seduce so many people, that we definitely are dealing with this sleeping man. And the scriptures refer to this as the valley of the dry bones when speaking of the children of Israel. It says here, we could not leave this discussion without understanding that this event contained an occult signature. If you are not familiar with what constitutes an occult signature, take a moment to read one of our articles here, Events Continuing to Occur by the Numbers. Since a practicing occultist believes that a good plan can come to ruin if it is not carried out by the sacred numbers, he will plan the physical facts of the event to occur according to their sacred numbers. In the plan to produce Antichrist, the number 11 represents Antichrist, which we know the Antichrist is a spirit. It says, thus, if we can see sacred numbers occurring in the facts of a story, we must look deeper to see if that story might have been carried out by the Illuminati. The beheading story does contain the sacred numbers of 11. All right, so this story in 2004 had the sacred numbers of 11 and also the sacred number of 13, and which are occult numbers and numerology, and also the ritual of the beheading. So when we start seeing these things, we can definitely know that what they call the Illuminati, the scriptures refer to as the rulers of the darkness of this world. We know that they are actually, putting their signature on the event and taking credit for those who have the esoteric knowledge to know what these things mean. All right, so this is going to segue into our next article talking about the number 11. And again, before we go into that, this was Albert Pike's vision he had in the late 1800s for this Third World War between Muslims and Christians, which would produce the total worship of Lucifer. When the scriptures tell us in Revelation 13 that if you did not take the beast mark and worship his image, all right, that you will be put to death. All right, because that's what everybody, if you look up now, everybody's worshiping Lucifer. Everywhere you look, whether it's in politics, whether it's in entertainment like music, sports, in these churches with the paganism that's being taught, is they're getting ready to destroy Christendom and atheism to have people under the full worship of the beast, under Satan. And it's crazy that we talked about Skull and Bones in this particular article, but you have the founder of NFL, Walter Camp, who was a member of Skull and Bones. And right at this time of the year, being all these things are happening, you have the NFL starting up this week. I believe what the first game was last night. So, there's something else interesting to throw in the mix when you look at how they strategically, plan their events and put them in place to carry out their black magic, sorcery, and witchcraft. Now, speaking about this number 11, you had this week 11 airplanes stolen from the Libyan airport, and this happened on September 2nd, 2014. And we look at the numerology. We know that 9 plus 2 is 11, adding up the dates. And also, when you look at the number 2, it breaks down to 1 plus 1. Both those ones also represent 11. The Twin Towers represent 11, 1 and 1. All right. And this comes, what we're about to read, on the 13th anniversary of 9/11, the number 13. Again, this is just occult numerology and what they deem, but not for us to place our, base our conclusions on something going to happen. These are just, information that's being put out that I'm showing that how they use, this magic. Everything that they're using is magic and sorcery on the minds of the masses one way or another. All right, and they've been pushing this propaganda of the next terror attack now that ISIS has so-called taken control of the Middle East. You have now them saying that ISIS is planning to attack an American city. And we know that America actually went into Iraq and brought in weapons this whole time and basically have been arming this terrorist group, no matter what name they go under, whether it's Al-Qaeda or the Syrian rebels, and now being called ISIS, that America has stockpiled these groups with weapons. That's how you can see them come out of nowhere with so much control over a region and over a country, so heavily military fortified. These are CIA groups put in place by America so they can go ahead and have a boogeyman or boogeymen. So when the next false flag happens, they can say, look, we told you it was going to happen. You need to give us more freedoms. Give us more of your freedom so we can give you more security and safety. They cannot carry these things out without an opposing force or opposition. So this next article comes off of naturalnews.com. It says, military intelligence confirms natural news warning. 12 missing commercial jets may now be deployed as weapons against U.S. cities. September 2nd, 2014. On March 24th of this year, I wrote a story entitled Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, now clearly a government cover-up. All evidence contradicts official story. So we talked about the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. It disappeared. You had recently a top-ranking ex-government official say that be on the lookout for this Flight 370 to pop up in a ISIS terrorist attack, and that America needs to go to DEFCON 1 and be in full terrorist alert. You had last week, you had David Cameron of the United Kingdom raise their terrorist threat level to a high level on the guise that ISIS may attack the UK. So again, all this fear propaganda to keep you in fear so that you will obey your government. It says here, in that story I wrote, it now seems increasingly likely that the Flight 370 aircraft has indeed been delivered to a rogue nation where it is being transformed into a weapon. Whoever took control of Flight 370 now has a massive stealth weapon with an incredibly long flight range. This aircraft can now be outfitted with nuclear weapons and dispatched to almost any desirable target anywhere in the world, including cities like New York and Washington D.C. Unfortunately, all right. So this airline has not been found, and speaking of airlines, because we know they're using that as a pretext to stop all travel. Continue to keep people from traveling from place to place, as the scriptures tell us in prophecy that a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to. You also had a terrorist, more terrorist propaganda come out this week with this black guy, I think he was Libyan, who was supposed to be working at an airport in America. So again, they continue to have these airport situations, the suicide, the underwear bomber, black guy who had supposedly got on this plane and was supposed to be, the underwear had bombs in his underwear, right? So they're shifting the new terrorists into black people. All right, you see what's happening in Ferguson when black people are rioting and looting and doing things like that. Then it makes us look as we are not to be desired in the society as if we weren't already not desired. So indesirables. All right, but moving on with this article here, it says, as Bill Gertz of the Free Beacon is now reporting, 11 commercial airliners have gone missing in Tripoli, and U.S. intelligence officials are now openly warning that those jets could be weaponized to launch terrorism attacks on U.S. cities. Western intelligence agencies recently issued a warning that the jets could be used in terrorist attacks across North Africa, reports the Free Beacon. Intelligence reports included a warning that one or more of the aircraft could be used in an attack later this month on the date marking the anniversary of September 11th, 2001. Terrorist attacks against New York and Washington, said U.S. officials familiar with the reports. All right, and we talked about the bridge there in New York that had put up the bleached white American flags on the bridge, which the white flag represents surrender, and they couldn't figure out how did somebody get on the bridge and swap these flags out. So we're seeing all of these subliminal signs of surrender, of destruction and attack coming to America. Lindsey Graham said a while back that through Syria was going to be the next 9/11 style attack on America, a nuclear bomb. It could happen in the harbor of South Carolina. All right, so again, they scream for war. All right, they're warmongers, constantly bloodthirsty because remember they worship death. These are blood sacrifices to Satan. And in order to get the American public to fully embrace their agenda, they must bring about these false flags and continue to push these false news reports and this propaganda to brainwash you and hypnotize you into their will. It says U.S. intelligence warning, an almost exact copy of Health Ranger story from March. Read that again and you will see that the military intelligence warning is almost a word-for-word description of what I wrote here on Natural News over 5 months ago, including the exact sequence and names of 2 U.S. cities. When I first wrote my story early this year, I remember being criticized for suggesting such wild conspiracy theories. Only incredibly stupid people use the phrase conspiracy theory as a flippant condemnation because, of course, all terrorist attacks are conspiracies by definition. As Natural News readers have since learned, a huge number of things I write about here on Natural News are months or years ahead of their time. They sometimes seem strange or unusual at first glance, but more often than not, they turn out to be very credible and almost prophetic. Intelligence officials are concerned about jetliner attacks on 9/11. The officials said the aircraft are a serious counterterrorism concern because reports of terrorist control over the Libyan airliners come 3 weeks before the 13th anniversary of 9/11 attacks and the 2nd anniversary of the Libyan terrorist attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, reports the Free Beacon. So again, America needing to start in allow to take place what's happened in Libya since the overthrow and killing of Gaddafi. All right, so they could, have control over Libya, have these rebel groups be trained in Libya, brought into places like in Syria and Iraq, and take control of all the weapon caches that Gaddafi had built up, And now you have them supposedly taking these jets, 11 of them. Missing Libyan jetliners raise fears of suicide airliner attacks on 9/11. And we saw what it just said. There was a attack on the American embassy in Libya on the anniversary of 9/11. We see the beheadings, which represent the 9th through 11 degrees of the Arabic side of Freemasonry. It says here, Egypt set for military intervention as Libya spirals toward failed state. Islamist militias in Libya took control of nearly a dozen commercial jetliners last month, and Western intelligence agencies recently issued a warning that the jets could be used in terrorist attacks across North Africa. Intelligence reports of the stolen jetliners were distributed within the U.S. government over the past 2 weeks and included a warning that one or more of the aircraft could be used in an attack later this month on the date marking the anniversary of September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks against New York and Washington, said U.S. officials familiar with the reports. There are numerous ways in which a commercial aircraft could be outfitted with weapons and launched against major U.S. cities. I will not detail them here for obvious reasons, but as a qualified aircraft pilot and a high IQ laboratory director, I can immediately think of at least 5 specific airborne threat tactics which the U.S. needs to defend against. I hope they've thought of them all and are taking necessary precautions, although in all seriousness, there are some attack scenarios which are virtually impossible to stop. Aircraft squawk identifiers, for example, can easily be spoofed. That's not any sort of top secret information. Even qualified pilot knows this. In nearly all aircraft, in fact, the pilot simply types in whatever squawk code he wants. It's a 4-digit code, and a 1200 is a generic VFR squawk code used by hundreds of general aviation aircraft on any given day. Unfortunately, an inbound jetliner with evil intent could quite readily request traffic vectors for a large U.S. airport and actually be guided right into the final approach glide slope by air traffic control. I'm not sure there are any security measures in place to detect terror intentions in time to stop the aircraft from deploying weapons above U.S. cities. I do know the U.S. military will scramble fighter jets to escort suspicious aircraft, but even their engagement protocols might actually make things worse in some circumstance. For example, what if the commercial jet is loaded with dirty bomb radioactive waste material? Shooting down the jet would only cause those materials to be dispersed into the air, potentially worsening the incident rather than de-escalating it. As U.S. intelligence authorities no doubt realize, if a flight crew of terrorists is willing to die in order to deliver their weapons, there is not much which can be done to stop them. You can't force an aircraft to land unless you physically shoot out the engines, in which case you are risking a massive explosion of the entire aircraft and whatever might be on board. Shooting out the engines, after all, will result in a fiery explosion for the simple reason that all the jet fuel is stored in the wings. And those wings aren't bulletproof. At best, the U.S. military might hope to shoot down an enemy aircraft over a relatively uninhabited area, but such outcomes necessitate early detection and confirmation of the threat. MH370 plus 11 more commercial jets are now missing. All right, so we're seeing more and more jets missing from Malaysia to Libya. So what we have now is a grand total of 12 large commercial aircraft that have gone missing. That's MH370 plus 11 more that have gone missing from Tripoli. We have terrorist group organizations around the world that are openly seeking to destroy America. On top of that, certain nations and terror groups obviously have easy access to weapons materials from several different fronts: biological, chemical, nuclear, etc. All right, and that's what they want you to think, that all these terrorist groups that are out there want to destroy America and, these boogeymen, when the real terrorist group that want to destroy America are the Freemasons that we read about in the previous article, those that are within the inner circle at the top. Those are the terrorists that want to destroy America, not these so-called Muslim extremists or any other terror group that they say is out there. Now the new ones in Somalia and in Nigeria. It says here, senior military intelligence believes U.S. cities might be targeted by these weaponized aircraft on September 11th. I don't think they have any specific intelligence claiming such attacks will take place, but they recognize the threat, as do I. With 12 jets, 12 U.S. cities could be simultaneously targeted by whatever weapons of mass destruction the terrorists can come up with. If only half of those attacks made it through, a six-city attack would still be absolutely devastating to America, which is what the terrorists want. Because of flight path proximity, the most likely cities to be targeted by terrorists flying commercial jets would reside on the east coast of the U.S. Therefore, it's only logical to conclude that the most likely city targets would include New York, Washington, D.C., Boston, Miami, Philadelphia, and so on. Be careful on 9/11. Whatever your plans for the next couple of weeks, be cautious on 9/11. This is a date on which terrorists wish to strike America because of the psychological impact of the date. Striking on precisely 9/11 sends a message that the U.S. can't stop terrorists on the most likely day of terror. Hopefully nothing bad will happen on 9/11, and I'm not trying to scare anyone away from existing plans. But if you have a choice, you might be wise to consider staying out of East Coast cities on that day just in case. Or if you really have to be in the city, double-check your own preparedness supplies. Do you have potassium iodide or iodine supplies in case of nuclear terrorism? Do you have a face mask in case of chemical or biological terrorism? Do you have food, water, and medicine supplies at home? These are wise things to keep prepared at all times, but especially so when the likelihood of a terrorism attack is heightened for any reason. Right now, you've got about a week to get prepared before 9/11. Just in case. I'm not suggesting anyone panic, but right now would be a good time to double-check your preparedness list and make plans to go out and acquire anything you're missing before the coming weekend. Stay safe by staying prepared for all emergencies. Personally, I believe it is only a matter of time before a large U.S. city is hit with a devastating terrorism weapon. I hope and pray such violence never takes place, but I also know that there are horrendously evil people and nations in our world, and I know that America has many enemies which are trying to destroy her. I am sending extra prayers to all the crew aboard America's nuclear subfleet because those subs stand as the last-ditch defense against global nuclear war. The very fact that we have stealth subs cruising around the oceans carrying nuclear-tipped ICBMs is a powerful deterrent to America's enemies. And if we didn't have those subs, we would be in far worse strategic situation right now. As a person who is anti-war, I am also strongly pro-nuclear submarines, because it is those subs that help prevent wars from taking place by forcing America's enemies to consider the devastating cost of retaliation. Stay safe, everybody. The idea of 12 missing commercial airliners in the hands of terror groups who hate America should be more than enough cause for you to double-check your preparedness plans before 9/11. All right? So we can definitely tell that this article is written by somebody who is pro-American, who does not know what the scriptures say about America, that America will come to an end, and there's nothing that you can do to stop it. Speaking of preparedness, the best preparedness is spiritual preparedness. All right, being vigilant, being sober-minded, watching and praying always. All right, so we have to be on our P's and Q's, as any day, anything is liable to happen. With as much going on in the world as we see happening right before our very eyes, anything can happen on any day outside of something happening on 9/11. All right, and we don't know when the next event will happen, but know that it will happen. And these events will continue to keep happening all the way up until the times of the coming of the Messiah. And, having food, water, medical or health supplies is definitely good. Also, to have you, some weeks or maybe even some months' supplies to sustain yourself. In the event that something happens, you're not going to be able to run to the grocery store in the midst of the panic and think you're going to come out with supplies. All right? You may not come out with your life. All right, so this is what we see happening in the news right now, building up to September 11th. I don't know if they, what type of memorials they have set up. I know they do these memorials where they may have Obama speak or, this person speak or whatnot. All right, but just be alert, and it just more goes to show that whatever America touches turns. America's poisonous. Whatever it touches just turns into total decay. Look at what's happening in Libya. They said, "Oh, we're going in to get rid of this bad man Gaddafi," when Libya had the highest standard of living in all of Africa, and now it probably has, you could say, the poorest. So it went from being the best to being the worst. You look at Iraq. You look at Afghanistan. You look at Syria. Now, next, it'll be they want to go into Iran. So whatever America goes into, know that it turns into decay. It deteriorates. And all of these things stemming from what happened on September 1st, 2001, 9/11. All of these events now based upon this particular date. All right, so now let's go into our next article. It says here on abcnews.go.com. One moment here. All right. Just one moment. Just trying to get this title of this article up. It's not showing here in this website. One moment. It says here, 2 women received experimental Ebola vaccine in fast-track trial. About the CDC last week, and their fraud and being exposed as a whistleblower came out and is showing that these vaccinations are DNA race weapons against blacks. That there's a 340% increase in autism amongst black babies with the vaccinations the CDC has been administering. We see CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, a heavily black populated area of the world and in America, the black capital of America. We see the CDC in West Africa, the same place where the so-called black slaves were taken out of Africa into the Americas. So everywhere the CDC is that they're in the midst of black people, doing their experiments and having their syringes and their suits on. So now they have come up with an experimental vaccine, meaning it's an experiment, that they don't know, what the outcome will be, but they need guinea pigs to come in, volunteer their lives to take this vaccination and see if, after taking this vaccination, first, do you survive the vaccine? 2, if you survive the vaccine, will you now survive with the Ebola virus if you're exposed to it? Right? So let's read this article here. This comes, let me get the date here. One moment. September 3rd, 2014. The first 2 doses of an experimental Ebola vaccine have been injected into human subjects in the National Institute of Health fast-track clinical trial. A 39-year-old woman was the first person to receive the vaccine, which had previously only been tested in monkeys. She received the injection Tuesday at the NIH Clinical Center in Bethesda, Maryland. A 27-year-old woman was given the shot today, the agency said. The trial will test the safety of the vaccine, which was developed by GlaxoSmithKline and the NIH's National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. It was expedited by the burgeoning Ebola outbreak in West Africa, where more than 1,900 people have died from the infection, according to the World Health Organization. And they're saying right now that the Ebola virus is out of control in Africa, that it's spreading everywhere. That's the latest news for that. It says here, the vaccine, which is designed to prevent Ebola, is different from the experimental drug ZMapp, which is designed to treat the infection. There is an urgent need for a protective Ebola vaccine, and it is important to establish that a vaccine is safe and spurs the immune system to react in a way necessary to protect against infection. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases at the NIH, said in a statement Tuesday. So they want you to believe, and they want to establish that vaccines are safe. Right? When we've seen the damage that vaccines do, specifically in black people. But again, if they cause the problem, create the fear, then they can now subject you to this type of mad science and experimentation. All right, and with the disease comes the vaccine and comes the medicine, which means money. So they're going to get paid on top of killing you and experimenting on you. It says here, although Fauci said the vaccine has performed extremely well in primate studies, this is the first time it has been tested in humans. The Phase 1 clinical trials will involve 20 men and women between the ages of 18 and 50, according to the NIH. Researchers will use a study to determine whether the vaccine is safe and see whether it prompts an immune response necessary to protect against Ebola. So they have to determine whether this is safe. In the meantime, they're going to experiment on people. Experiment with your life and your health. No human subjects will be infected with Ebola. A $4.7 million grant will also go toward additional Ebola vaccine trials in September at the University of Oxford in England, as well as centers in Gambia and Mali, according to GlaxoSmithKline. In all, 140 patients will be tested. Though Ebola was discovered nearly 40 years ago, it was so rare that drug manufacturers weren't interested in investing in finding a vaccine for it, said Dr. William Schaffner, chair of preventative medicine at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. Its rarity also made it impossible for scientists to conduct field studies. There's always the lay person's query of why don't they rush this? Why don't these guys work a little later at night? Schaffner told ABC News in July. It's a little more complicated than that. GlaxoSmithKline became involved in the Ebola vaccine because it bought Swiss vaccine company Akeiros AG in 2013. Akeiros, originally a Merck spinoff, had been working on the vaccine with the NIH since 2011, a GlaxoSmithKline spokeswoman told ABC News. Remember, we talked about Merck last week with those doctors who were working under Merck, now working with the CDC, who were approving those vaccinations and not releasing the information that they were causing a 340% spike in autism in black male babies. So they're all connected. All of these vaccines, no matter what name they go on, they may try to go under GlaxoSmithKline, but that's the same as the CDC. Just a different name. They're all the same. Although Fauci said in July that it would take until late 2015 for a vaccine, if successful, to be administered to a limited number of health workers, GlaxoSmithKline said in a statement that the grant will also enable it to manufacture 10,000 doses of the vaccine while the trials are ongoing. If the vaccine trials are successful, it will be able to make stocks available immediately to the World Health Organization. The NIH said it should have initial data from the trial in late 2014. The trial for a different vaccine is set to begin at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research in Silver Spring, Maryland. This vaccine was a collaboration between the Federal Department of Defense and Iowa pharmaceutical company NewLink Genetics Corp. All right, so, here it is. The CDC and these companies are now experimenting vaccinations on people for Ebola, but there was a doctor who was cured from Ebola. So what sense does that make, that they were able to cure a doctor from, him having Ebola to now they need a vaccine to fight against it because they don't, they're looking for a cure. So, just within that itself, it's just things that don't add up. It's not making any sense. How can you cure it but then be looking for a cure? These are questions that one must ask when looking at these particular type of scenarios. So there's the vaccination. All right, let's go to our next article here. WND.com. It says here, WHO or WHO sets stage to okay experimental Ebola drugs. August 26, 2014. Because remember, all of this is experimental. You are an experiment. And that's typically what you are when you go to the doctor's office. That they're guessing and they're trying to experiment on you and see, okay, you're dealing with this or that. How do we cure it? Well, let's guess and see if we can get it right. But this now, the drug part. We had the vaccine. Now here goes the drugs. It says the World Health Organization will host a closed-door conference in Geneva with some 100 healthcare experts from around the world to explore the alternative medical treatments and experimental drugs available to combat Ebola. The WHO hopes the conference, September 4th through 5th, will lead to the approval of one or more treatments to combat the current Ebola outbreak in Africa. WHO spokeswoman Fadela Kaib in Geneva explained to WND in an exclusive telephone interview that while journalists will be excluded from the meeting, the WHO will conduct a media advisory at the conclusion to allow journalists to ask questions. The WHO decision to explore experimental Ebola drugs and treatments appears to have been prompted in part by a widely reported offer made Monday by the Japanese company Toyama Chemical, a pharmaceutical subsidiary of the photo giant Fujifilm. The Japanese company will deliver to the WHO at no cost a quantity of the experimental drug favipiravir, originally known as T705. The drug is marketed by Toyama Chemical under the trade name Avigan. The company will supply enough doses for 20,000 people in an attempt to control the Ebola outbreak affecting West Africa. And when you look at West Africa and you look and actually do some research, you'll see that the people there are fighting to try to keep these mad scientists out of their countries and setting up shop. And you have the governments of these countries firing on their citizens who try to come against these guys in suits, these guys that show up in these protective suits. The military of these countries are firing on their people for fighting back because they know that these people walking in these suits are bringing death to their countries. That these are, walking executioners with their syringes and their medicine. It says here, Yoshihide Sugar, a spokesman for the Japanese cabinet, affirmed Toyama Chemical is ready to ship the drug at any time to West Africa upon the approval of the WHO. He said Japan's health ministry approved in March the use of Avigan against influenza. Fujifilm is in talks with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration through a U.S. partner, Boston-based Medivector, to prepare for clinical testing of the drug in the U.S., the Associated Press reported Monday. WND requested comment from the FDA and Medivector but received no response. The influenza virus and the Ebola virus are very similar. Takeo Aoki, a spokeswoman for Fujifilm, told Le Monde, noting a German research team has tested Avigan successfully against hemorrhagic fever. WHO spokeswoman Kaib declining to comment on the Japanese offer, explained to WND it's not up to the WHO to decide whether or not to use certain drugs. Our role is to invite the consultation from qualified health professionals worldwide to decide if the WHO should recommend one or two of them, whatever number the conference decides, to the West African country to use in combating Ebola, she said. Kaib said the attendees will evaluate such each experimental treatment and drug known to be available. We will need to determine what level of testing has been done for each. For example, if they have reached the animal stage of testing, or if the drug is in testing on human subjects, she said. We will need to determine what type of treatment or drug each experimental method involves, whether it is a vaccine or an antiviral. Then the experts will decide to recommend or not some of them to be used in West Africa. Kaib said there are 2 separate outbreaks of Ebola in Africa. We have one outbreak in West Africa that involves the initial countries of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, plus Nigeria, she said. Then we have a new outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Kaib insisted the 2 outbreaks in Africa are entirely separate events. The outbreak in Congo has nothing to do with the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, she said. Ebola did not show up in Congo because someone infected with the disease traveled from West Africa to Congo. She said the outbreak in Congo is relatively small with only 2 confirmed cases. In 1976, Congo was the first country in the world to experience Ebola, Kaib said, and the strain there now appears to be related to the original outbreak, not the outbreak in West Africa. So they're telling you here that there are 2 different events happening with Ebola in Africa, 2 separate events, to just add more drama to the story, to the plot. The plot thickens. She also confirmed that health quarantines are being enforced in the districts of regions of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia as hot zones of the outbreak. The areas that have been quarantined are areas where there are a lot of confirmed cases of Ebola and a lot of deaths, she said. This in line with WHO recommendations that hot zone areas should be isolated, provided the general populations in the isolated are given what they need in terms of food, water, and non-medical items, and the patients with Ebola get a full range of medical care. So again, you have the vaccine, which is an experiment, and you have now drugs, which are experiments. And these experiments are not for any type of cure. These experiments are for death, taking your DNA and murdering a demographic of people. That's what they're experimenting on, to make sure that what they have as a death on a people, a DNA-specific people, will be carried out full circle. And there's an article on mycowartha.com that actually goes into detail. I'm not going to read it here, but it goes into detail on DNA. It's called DNA Sequences Reveal Ebola's Spread and Mutation, to let you know that they're telling you that this is a disease that's DNA specific, and they're saying that it mutates. So when they try to fight against it and said, oh, well, we can't stop it, it's mutating. So they can just continue to keep experimenting and continue to keep pumping you with vaccines and medication. Oh, it's mutating again. Let's try something different. You need some more vaccines. Let us go back to the drawing board and get another vaccine and more drugs to pump in you. All right, so all of these things happening right now in the world, everything that the scriptures speak of in Matthew 24, 2 Corinthians 16, they will be going on. The wars, the rumors of wars, the earthquakes in diverse places. You see earthquakes happening. 6.0 earthquake happened in California a couple weeks ago. You had Peru. You're seeing the famines and the pestilences, the plagues, the diseases popping up, which leads us to our next article talking about famine. This comes off of naturalnews.com. It says, drought apocalypse begins in California as wells run dry. September 4th, 2014. Water wells in Central California have begun to run dry, reports the LA Times. Extreme drought conditions have become so harsh for the Central Valley community of East Porterville that many of its residents dependent on their own wells have run out of water. Tulare County has confirmed their wells have run out of water, and so far hundreds of homes have no running water. According to the LA Times, rumors are also spreading that Child Protective Services officials will begin taking children away from families who have no running water, although the county claims the rumor is false. So there's a rumor going on that CPS will come and take your child if you do not have any running water. And I don't doubt that in the least bit. Any reason they can come and take your child and take them for more of their experimental vaccination tests and mad science, Frankenstein, sorcery in the laboratories, whatever other things they have in plan for your children, trust me, they're going to do it. They're going to use these events for so many different reasons, so many different purposes they will serve, killing so many birds with one stone. It says here, it begins the collapse of California's water aquifers. With this news, it is now official that the collapse of California's water aquifers has begun. With each passing month and year, more and more wells will run dry across the state as California plummets into the desert conditions from which it once sprang. Extreme drought now covers 82% of California, according to the National Drought Mitigation Center. 58% of the state is in exceptional drought. All right, so 82% of California in drought, and of that 82, 58% is exceptional, meaning that it's in the worst case scenario of drought. During the unfolding of this drought, California farmers and cities have siphoned unprecedented volumes of water out of the state's underground aquifers. This is called fossil water, and it can take centuries to regenerate. Once the fossil water is used up, it's gone. 35-year mega drought may be on the way. The southwestern United States has 50% chance of suffering a mega drought that lasts 35 years, reports the Daily Mail. So it's not just California, but the whole entire southwest U.S. is in a mega drought that they're saying could last 35 years, which we know America would not be able to survive a 35-year mega drought in that part of its country. They say global warming has meant the chance of a decade-long drought is at least 50%, and the chances of a mega drought, one that lasts up to 35 years, ranges from 20 to 50% over the next century. One scientist is quoted in the story as saying, "This will be worse than anything seen during the last 2,000 years and would pose unprecedented challenges to water resources in the region." Anything worse than the last 2,000 years. Wouldn't you say that that is a sign of a plague? When the scriptures talk about famine being a plague that would be upon Babylon. And again, famine comes with no water. You don't have any water, you have no food. And eventually you have no people, which is death, which is another plague promised to Babylon. Unless politicians become magical wizards and figure out a way to create water out of nothing, what all this means is that cities of the American Southwest will not be able to support present-day populations. A mass migration, evacuation out of the cities will be necessary sooner or later. And I believe that sums up Revelations 18:4 just with that sentence. A mass migration, evacuation out of the cities will be necessary sooner or later. The reason why the Most High warns in Revelations 18, "Come out of her, my people, so you partake not in her sins nor her plagues." Because if you stay, this is what you're going to be faced with. All the plagues that are coming, that are here. The beginning of sorrows. And again, America will continue to prop all of this up and keep it going until the last minute when they're ready to unleash all of these events and have them happen simultaneously to complete a level of shock that no mind can imagine would happen, especially in America, because American people have not been exposed to any type of true suffering. Yeah, you have people that are in the ghettos definitely suffering and homeless people that are suffering. But a lot of those can now receive social benefits. All right, so again, most majority of Americans don't know what suffering is. So it'll be a shock, a system shock. You will be delirious, and the mark of the beast won't even be a thought process. It'll be a reaction. It'll be a reflex to take the mark of the beast to survive for most people in America. The lucky ones that survive, or should I say the unlucky ones that survive, the plagues that lead up to that. California's water deficit will lead to ecological and economic collapse. And an almost perfect reflection of California's state deficits, the state is also running an unsustainable water deficit. It is a mathematical certainty that when you remove far more water from the aquifers than is being replenished, the amount of water remaining in those aquifers will eventually reach zero. This zero-day water reality is still psychologically denied by most Californians. All right, because again, people are in denial, people don't know, people don't care. As long as the water is coming at that point in time, they think everything is fine until the water stops. Then it's too late. If the reality of the situation were widely recognized, California would be experiencing a glut of real estate inventory as millions of homeowners try to sell their properties and evacuate the state. The fact that the real estate market has not yet collapsed in California tells us that Californians are still living in a state of denial about the future of their water supply. People are asleep. They don't know. They don't care. And this isn't the only thing California is dealing with. You also have the radioactive isotopes and poison that's coming across the Pacific Ocean from Japan through Fukushima. All right, so we're seeing California becoming a slowly deteriorating wasteland. No water and radiation. What life can come out of that? Even as California's water supply collapses by the day, local farmers and towns have few options other than drilling for more water. Drill, drill, drill is the mantra of the day, creating an 18-month backlog for well drilling companies. Each new well that's drilled must seek to go deeper than the previous wells, which are running dry. It's a literal race to the bottom, which can only end in catastrophe. Then again, a willful acceleration toward catastrophe is merely a sign of the times when it comes to human civilization. There is almost no era in which humans have ever achieved balance, not in fossil fuels, metals mining, fossil water exploitation, debt creation, industrial chemical contamination, ecological exploitation, or even global population. That's almost as if the human race is determined to destroy itself while racing to see who can achieve self-destruction first. All right, so we've been talking about the California situation and what's happening in southwestern America for at least a good year, in deeper detail than maybe on the surface for some years now of what's happening there. And the same thing you're seeing happening with the water supply, you're seeing happening on the economic side with the money, with the dollar. It's flatlined too. It's tapped out too. It's on life support, just like the water supply in this part of America is on life support. And whenever they're ready to pull the plug, no more water, no more money. What's the next option? The mark of the beast. You want to survive? Take the mark of the beast. We'll bring you where there's food and water. We'll give you your Ebola vaccination and all your other vaccinations so that you can not, take part in any of these diseases that are widespread when that time comes. This is what they are engineering right before our very eyes. So they're busy working on all fronts, causing this to happen. Speaking of money, taking us to our Next article, because this will lead to the mark of the beast. Collapse of the money to where you will only be able to buy and sell with the mark. SHTFplan.com. Fed Vice Chairman warns your bank may seize your money to recapitalize itself. August 27, 2014. At the height of the financial crisis in 2008, the U.S. government forced some of the country's largest banks to take bailout funds amounting to billions of dollars in order to keep them from going bankrupt. It was a move designed to not only keep too big to fail financial institutions afloat, but one that would inspire confidence and keep American consumers spending. As a result, the last several years have seen stock markets reach record highs, with Americans continuing to rack up personal debt for real estate, vehicles, education, and consumer goods as if the financial crisis never happened. Americans continue to live deliciously in the midst of extreme debt and decline. But the purported recovery may not be everything that government officials and influential financial leaders have made it out to be. Recent comments delivered by Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Stanley Fischer suggest that not only are global and domestic economies still struggling, but the U.S. government itself is preparing financial contingency plans in anticipation of another widespread economic event. However, this time around, according to Fischer, the government won't be bailing out financial institutions in need of cash. Instead, failing banks will turn directly to their unsecured creditors when they need money. And within this context, that means you. The recession that began in the U.S. in December 2007 ended in June 2009. But the Great Recession is a near worldwide phenomenon, with the consequences of which many advanced economies continue to struggle. Its depth and breadth appear to have changed the economic environment in many ways, and to have left the road ahead unclear. Work on the use of the resolution mechanisms set out in the Dodd-Frank Act based on the principle of a single point of entry, though less advanced than the work on capital and liquidity ratios, hold the promise of making it possible to resolve banks in difficulty at no direct cost to the taxpayer. As part of this approach, the U.S. is preparing a proposal to require systematically important banks to issue bail-inable long-term debt that will enable insolvent banks to recapitalize themselves in resolution without calling on government funding. This cushion is known as a gone concern buffer. Though Fisher doesn't detail exactly what bail-inable long-term debt actually is, one only needs to look to Europe, namely Cyprus, to understand what he means. When the Cypriot banking system collapsed because of an inability to service its debt in 2013, the government forced bank depositors to cover the debts. This led to banks forcibly seizing funds from depositor accounts in order to pay their debts. So again, we've seen this happen before, happen in Europe, where they seize those accounts of those bank account holders in order to pay the debts of the bank. According to the Fed Vice Chairman, the U.S. government is now proposing similar rules, following in the footsteps of Europe and Japan, who have already prepared such measures. The bottom line is that financial, economic, and monetary policy makers in the U.S. are fearful that another crisis, perhaps even worse than what we saw in 2008, is going to be playing out in the very near future. Otherwise, why would they find it necessary to take the drastic step of forcing bank depositors to act as a backstop for their financial institutions? But this time around, it won't be the government that bails them out directly. Instead, if you have an account with the bank, you are an unsecured creditor for that institution, just like the people of Cyprus were for their banks. And when that bank inevitably comes under pressure because of an inability to cover their debts, it is you who will become the bailout mechanism. it's not hard to imagine how this scenario might play out the next time around. At the first hint of another crisis, we're going to see panic that will make 2008 look like a picnic. First, stock markets will sell off en masse across the world as a scramble to not be the last one out takes hold of investors. This, in turn, will lead to liquidity problems at major financial institutions across the country. As banks run out of cash to cover the tens of billions of dollars they need to service their existing debt, they will turn to the new policies described by Stanley Fischer. What this means is that one morning you could wake up and see 10 or 20% of your funds transferred out of your account in exchange for long-term debt like a bond, with the promise that the bank will pay it back to you at a later date. More debt. How are things getting better as they keep saying the economy is getting better when now billions and billions of bailouts given to the banks, and now they're saying the banks are to the point to where they're eventually going to have to borrow from their consumers and give you a bond and say they'll pay you back. You can't continue to keep borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and not pay your debt. That's not there's no success in that ideology whatsoever. It says the immediate result, as you might expect, will be widespread bank runs, just as we saw in Europe when Cypriot depositors got hit. But there will be no cash to be had, save a few $100s here and there, as banks will limit ATM withdrawals and will likely shut their doors to customers. This, of course, would have an effect similar to what we recently saw in Ferguson, except riots and looting will be taking place in every major city across the country. And though it may seem like an impossible scenario to envision in today's peaceful and stable America, the U.S. military and Department of Homeland Security doesn't think so. For the last several years, they have been wargaming and simulating widespread economic collapse scenarios. And they've been stockpiling everything from armored vehicles to riot gear in over 8,000 counties across the U.S. in preparation for the civil unrest that would explode from coast to coast. Not to mention the billions of rounds of hollow point ammunition they've also stockpiled on. Pennington, author of The Prepper's Blueprint, warns that when a crisis like this hits and people lose everything they have, a person's anger rules their actions and their thoughts. When that anger takes over, the people will turn on each other and on their government. They defy government because the government is the one that took those freedoms and rights away. The government knows this, and they have prepared significant contingency plans for such an event. When it happens, it will be too late for those who did not have the foresight to prepare for it. Do you have extra cash on hand in case that bank shuts down? Have you acquired a secondary mechanism of exchange, such as gold or silver, in case your funds become inaccessible? Do you have an emergency food stockpile in case bank merchant systems go down and grocery stores are unable to process transactions? Are you prepared to shelter in place so as to avoid the looting, violence, and government detentions that will be happening in your local neighborhood? Are you prepared to defend yourself if the violence spreads to your front door? Now is the time to be ready. The government is. You should be too. All right, so just more on preparation. If you have to deal with these banks, it should be on a limited level. You should not have your life savings in these banks. Only that which is needed to, do the transactions that you do, maybe paying bills from week to week. But the rest of the money you should have in your hand. Because if you don't have it in your hand, then it's not your money. The banks are showing you it's not your money. And the money needs to be invested in things that have intrinsic value, things that you can sustain yourself on. Things that are valuable, that will be valuable. As you see, water will be one of the most valuable commodities in the coming times ahead of us. Food. Maybe a little bit of silver, maybe a little bit of gold, just so you can barter with. Because pretty soon the money will have no value. So for those people that are concerned about money and not being able to do this and not being able to do that, pretty soon you won't have to worry about it. Because there won't be no money. And then what will you do? The reason why we have to understand is that the kingdom of heaven is within us. In our actions, and what we do, in our wisdom, how we operate, not in the materialism or the rudiments of the world. But we have to use wisdom to know how to use the things of the world to our advantage, to put us in position to sustain and survive and to endure. And let me see here what time we have. All right, so that's going to conclude our news for tonight. I want to read some scripture just speaking upon surviving in these last days, because you may see this stuff, and you have people that may be fearful or need some encouragement, whatever the case may be. So we're going to go into some scriptures here real quick, just to get some understanding on how to survive. What does the scriptures tell us on how to survive in these last days with all of these things that are happening? All right, so let me go ahead and I'm bringing Brother Sham Nawa'ala. Brother Sham, Shabbat Shalom, are you there?
Shabbat Shalom, Elder.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. How about yourself, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Let's go to 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha.
All right, 1 second. What chapter we at, Elder?
Chapter 16.
All right, what verse?
Chapter 16, and let's go to start at verse 67.
2nd Esdras, chapter 16, verse 67. Behold, the Most High himself is the judge. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall the Most High lead you forth, and deliver you from all trouble.
So the first thing we must do, if we are to survive in the times that are ahead of us, we must fear the Most High. And when I say fear him, I don't mean because you say it with your mouth that you fear him. If you fear the Most High, you must keep his commandments. You keep his commandments, that means you're leaving off from your sins. So whatever sin you're dealing with, you have to let it go. And forget your iniquities. Forget about it. Don't even think about that wrong or that wickedness that you were doing. To meddle no more with them forever. Don't deal with that sin no more, ever again. So shall the Most High lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble. So that's how you will get deliverance in these times, and have a vision and a path to follow to be led forth. The same way, looking in the movie The Book of Eli, how he said he heard the voice and he was obedient to the voice. The voice gave him a path and he knew where he must head, and he headed that direction. All right, we must have that same focus, leaving off from our sins with that one thought in our mind, to follow and fear the Most High. Verse 68, read.
Verse 68, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach, and trodden underfoot.
All right, so again, they're going to bring to us in these times of tribulation the iniquities and the sins, the things offered unto idols. All right, taking the mark of the beast, worshiping the beast. Those that consent to this way of life and don't come out of America spiritually and mentally, Won't have to worry about making it physically out of her. Because the scripture says they will be trodden underfoot. Read.
Verse 70, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Most High.
And it doesn't just stop in America, because wherever you go, living as pilgrims in the earth, every place, in the next city you go to, there'll be great insurrection upon those that fear the Most High. Great persecution and tribulation. If you fear the Most High, you're keeping His commandments, you are going to stick out. And the beast, those who are under the beast, will be looking to turn you in. Read.
Verse 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Most High, higher.
All right, so we know that you're going to have those people that die as martyrs for the Most High and His Son. Revelations tells us that you have those who get beheaded for not taking the mark of the beast. So for some people that may be their end. But again, if we fear the Most High, we don't deny Him, we keep His commandments, and to the end, the dead in Christ will rise first. Death is not a bad thing at all when you're in the Most High. All right, John the Baptist was beheaded, as we read earlier tonight in one of the articles. The prophets. Christ was killed. All right, so we have to understand that with keeping and following the Most High's ways, that's what comes with this walk. And we should not fear that, because we know there's a better place prepared for us if we are obedient. Verse 72.
For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses.
All right, because we know that when this happens, that, listen, preparing is good, but you're going to have people going into other people's houses, their neighbors, taking everything out. Everything. Their goods, whatever you stocked up on. So you can't put, like a lot of these preppers, your faith into that. That's not where your faith lies, and that's just wisdom. And to know if you see something coming, to prepare for it. But know that you can't put your faith in that. Your faith has to be in the Most High. Read.
Verse 73, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire.
So only then will the Most High's chosen be known, because again, tribulation worketh patience and experience. How can we be deemed faithful, tried and true, if we haven't been through any persecution, any tribulation? Anybody can be a soldier when there's no war, but can you be a soldier when there's a war? All right, so in order to make it to the kingdom, you must go through the fire. You must go through the tribulation, the persecution, the affliction, to endure through that, to never turn on the Most High. There's no rapture in this. For those looking for a rapture, that's not what the scriptures say. Read.
Verse 74, hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Most High higher, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same.
So we look at the news and the current events, and we hear the Most High's voice being said with the wrath He's bringing. That, behold, the days of trouble are at hand. We see it. We see everything, coming to an apex. Everything coming to a head. Everything is happening everywhere. But what does the scripture say? I will deliver you from the same. He will deliver us from these days, one way or another. Whether it's dying in Christ or being alive to see Him break the atmosphere, He will deliver us one way or another. Verse 75.
Verse 75, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your God.
So what does the Scriptures say? The Scriptures say don't be afraid when you see these things. So, listen, you can't be afraid. Being afraid isn't an option. Revelations, I believe it's 21, tells us that the lake of fire will be reserved for the fearful. That's not talking about fearing the Most High. It's talking about those who are just fearful of man and what Satan can do to them. Because that's not a spirit of the Most High. And neither doubt. So you can have any doubt in your mind. Listen, you know who you serve. You know your works. You have no doubt in your mind. At the end of the day, you're going to make it to the kingdom. Because the Most High is our God. He is going to lead us down the path and the road that we need to make it to that kingdom. The one that's on the way. Verse 76.
And the God of them who keep my commandments and precepts, said the Most High Power. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves.
So the Most High will only guide you. You're only going to receive guidance if you're keeping His commandments and precepts. Saith the Most High Power, not us. It's not. I'm just reading what the Scriptures say and telling you that's what the Word says. But this is coming from the mouth of the Most High. If you're not keeping His commandments and His precepts, you have no guidance. You have no wisdom. You won't make it. Let not your sins weigh you down, because your sin is weight, like a yoke of iron around your neck. You're not going to be able to go nowhere living in sin. All right, He's not going to deliver those who want to continue to do what they want to do and live their life and live the American dream in the image of the beast. All right, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. Don't let yourself be seen as a sinner to where people know that you're good to do wickedness and mischief. That should not be what people see when they look at you. They should see a righteous man or a righteous woman walking in the Most High. Let that lift itself up when people are around you. How can you talk about the Most High and the truth, but you yourself aren't living righteous? You're carrying yourself in a way where people are looking at you as no different than somebody who's in a Christian church, a hypocrite. Read.
Verse 77. Woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquity, like as a field is covered over with bushes, and the path thereof covered with thorns, that no man may travel through.
So destruction, warning to those who are bound with their sins. Those who don't want to give up the sinful life, that want to continue to keep sinning. God loves the sinner but hates the sin. I'm under grace. The law is done away with. You know, I can do this, I can do that because I'm an Israelite. Woe to you. Woe. Because your path is going to be like a path covered with bushes and thorns. You're not going to be able to go the way the Most High is going to have there to lead you to safety, because you're living a sinful lifestyle. You have no direction. You're all over the place. You can go left and you can go right, but you can't go down that straight, narrow path that leads to the kingdom. Verse 78.
It is left undressed and is cast into the fire to be consumed therewith.
So those will be cast into the lake of fire. The weeping and gnashing of teeth, because they thought that they could do whatever they want to do as long as they believe in Jesus, or because they were an Israelite and they believed in Yahushua or Yeshua. All right, so again, the Scriptures are clear on how we are to survive in these last days. Not to be fearful. So that's the first thing. We can't be scared. This news and information that's being brought out is to help those stay focused and to let you know, that we're behind the 8 ball. There's no time for games. The game time is over with. For those that think that you still have time to play and I can get right later, listen, the truth is not something that you turn off and on like a light switch. You can't turn this on at the drop of a dime when things get bad. What will your works be? Tomorrow's not promised. You can't just all of a sudden decide one day when things get bad, oh, I'm going to undo all the wrong I did and do good. You may not have the time to. And you'll be judged on everything you've done up until that point. The liberty to do what's right is now. And we must take full advantage, time and liberty that we have, and use it for the Most High, for His kingdom, and waking up our people, and being a light unto the Gentiles. All right, so I just wanted to read that because I know sometimes, we do need to be encouraged. Encouragement comes from the Word. We must stay in it. When you're feeling a certain type of way, you're feeling fearful or scared, or listen, you need to fast. That's a spirit. When's the last time you fasted? I know a lot of people can't put down the food, but you need to fast. You need to prepare when there is no food. Fasting is a two-edged sword. It prepares you for when the famine hits. Your stomach is used to growling. Afflict your soul. Speaking of afflicting of souls, we have the Day of Atonement coming up, along with the Feast of Trumpets next week. Friday night sundown is the Feast of Trumpets. All right, that's the fall Shabbat, the 7th month Shabbat, changing season. Just want to put that out there so people can mark that on their schedule and their calendar. And I'm pretty sure that in majority of cities that are out there that they'll have gatherings and holy convocations and feasts for that time. And then 10 days from that, you have the Day of Atonement, which will be a day of fasting. Another holy day for fasting. All right, so just want to let everybody know to be mindful of the holy days that are coming up and continue to stay encouraged. Know how to fight this fight. It's a simple formula, but we must execute. All right, it's the fourth quarter, and if you want to win the game in the fourth quarter, you must execute. Just knowing how to win isn't going to be enough to win the game. You must execute in the fourth quarter. All right. Before we go to break, one more scriptures here, Brother Lawya. You said you have a scripture?
Yeah, we're going to go to Isaiah 52. Just want to piggyback off what you're saying and kind of what was brought forth last show and this show. I'll just grab it right quick. This is just to everybody, once again, for encouragement, in these times. Not to depend on money. And like you said, we got to operate our faith and wisdom. Okay. Isaiah 52:1 reads, Awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion. Put on thy beautiful garment, O Jerusalem, the holy city. For henceforth there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Shake thyself from the dust. Arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. Loose thyself from the bands of thy neck, O captive daughter of Zion. For the Most High, for thus says the Most High, Ahia, ye have sold yourselves for naught, and ye shall be redeemed without money. So I wanted to grab that. That's for some encouragement to the brothers and sisters.
Right, because we didn't spend any money to sell ourselves into our captivity, so therefore it's not going to cost any money to get ourselves out of this captivity. But understand that these things must happen in order to break us free and release us from our captivity. We can't be free until these things happen, which will break the bonds and allow Jacob to be free. So, you say you want to be free, you want the kingdom to be here. Well, all of these things must happen first. All right, and it's not going to take money for our freedom. All right, this is not 12 Years a Slave or any of the other slave movies they made where somebody had to buy themselves out of slavery. All right, we didn't sell ourselves into slavery, and we're not going to, buy ourselves out of slavery. These scourges and these things that are happening on the earth as judgment, all right, are what's going to release us from our condition. Okay, so hopefully with segment 1, there was some edification received tonight for you brothers and sisters. We're going to go ahead and get ready for segment 2. In segment 2, we're going to go to the call line. So if you have any news or questions, comments, anything extra you want to bring out, definitely chime in. The guest caller number is 646-200-4309. Simply press 1. That'll put you in the call queue. When we come back, we'll take your calls. You are listening to Friday Night Sabbath coming out of Babylon here on blogtalkradio.com. And we'll be right back. All right, Shabbat Shalom, we're back. I'm going to go ahead and go into segment 2. This is Friday Night Sabbath coming out of Babylon on blogtalkradio.com for the Gathering of Christ Church. Again, the phone number to call in is 646-200-4309. And press 1 if you'd like to speak. All right, let's go ahead and go to first caller here. We have from the 336 area code, we have Sister Cynthia with a question. You're on the air. Corinthia. Excuse me.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hear you loud and clear.
I wanted to know, I was led to go to YouTube and put in realhebrews.com, and when I seen that it led me to your program, which I have been watching for 6 weeks now, I have 2 questions. One is, my grandmother is black, my grandfather is white and Indian, and my father is black. Am I Hebrew?
Well, the lineage is based upon your father, so you are whatever your father's lineage is, starting from the top down. Okay. So you would have to be able to trace your father's lineage all the way back to Jacob to know if you come through that Hebrew line as far as Israelites. Now, we can look at the scriptures and know what the scriptures say about the conditions that Israel would be under in the last days, which are the curses, to identify those people. So we know who we are based upon those curses and the conditions we are in. But as far as per individual, you would have to trace your genealogy all the way back to Jacob to determine, 100%, as an individual if you're an Israelite, which is the reason why when you go to, if you go to Titus, chapter 3, verse 9.
Okay.
When Paul tells us to avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. Your genealogies are your lineage. Going into your family tree and trying to determine, what's your bloodline, because again, that's not the purpose of all of this. The purpose is to be a follower of the Messiah, be baptized and have remission of your sins, and to keep his commandments. At the end of the day, that's our focus, because when you're going into your genealogy and spending all the time on that, then it takes away from the focus of following the Messiah. All right? Are you still there? No, I'm not able to hear anything.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. It sounds muffled and like you're far away.
Okay.
No, I still can't hear you. It's not sure. sure what happened, but no. I mean, I can hear you, but it's very, very low. It's not enough to. Okay.
Can you hear
Say
me
something now? Yes, I can hear you better now. Yes.
Okay, past 3 weeks, I've had 3 dreams. The first dream, me and a friend was coming across a railroad track, and I seen huge tornadoes over the city where I live. And my 3 sons was in 3 different areas, and my friend pulled me back and said, no, you can't go over the railroad track. And we ran into a house, and there was an old woman and a young girl sitting in there. And somebody told me to run out the back door. And when I went out the back door, it was beautiful in the back. And then there was a man standing in the yard. And when I turned to look around, the tornado was coming to get the house that I was in. And I was wanting to run back to get the people out. And he told me, no, there's other plans for you. In the next dream that I had next week, an old woman and an old man wanted to go down to the beach. And I was helping them to go down to the beach. And a big old wave of water was coming up, and I could see sharks and fishes in the water, and I was trying to pull them back from the water. The last dream I had, there was clouds coming down, and it had red lightning bolts in it, and I was getting ready to touch one, and someone said, no, don't touch that. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Can you help me understand that?
No, ma'am, I cannot. I cannot, because the scriptures tell us about our dreams. Our dreams are for ourselves. The Most High sends us dreams for our understanding, and it's not for anybody to interpret. That would be somebody who is using divination or going into those types of, forms of sorcery, which the law tells us about dibbling and dabbling in that, soothsaying and things like that. So no, we don't interpret dreams or anything like that according to Scripture. So just know that whatever the Most High sends you in your dreams, and sometimes dreams don't come from the Most High, they can come from the enemy as well. Another reason why we don't put our stock in our dreams. But just know that if the dream is coming from the Most High, that it's for you. It's for you and you only for your instruction.
Okay. Okay, well, I thank you for your answers, and I just want you to know that I've been telling everybody I know about you on YouTube and telling everybody to watch.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the support. We're glad to have you on board as far as somebody who's new in the understanding. So, continue to grow in that and have that fire that you have now on learning and telling others. Continue to stay in that. Don't never lose that fire.
Yes, sir.
And if you need us, we're here. So make sure you reach out to us, and we'll be here to accommodate you in any way we can. All right?
All right. Thank you, sir. Be blessed. Shalom.
All right. You're welcome. Bless you and Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, sir.
All right. And Sister Corinthia, if you could press 1 on your phone, we're going to go to the next caller. We have Brother Talib from the 862 with a question. You're on the air.
How you doing, Elder? My question was, you guys, I'm outside. I'm sorry if you hear a lot of noise in the background. I'm waiting for the bus. You played a clip right before coming back from commercials, an older gentleman speaking. What was the name of that clip? Yeah, I can find that on YouTube?
Yes, the name, the gentleman's name is Neely Fuller.
Neely Fu?
Fuller, F-U-L-L-E-R, Jr.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, Elder?
Fuller, F-U-L-L-E-R, Jr.
Fuller Jr.?
Neely Fuller.
Jr. Neely Fuller Jr.
First name is N-E-E-L-Y, Neely.
Okay.
And the name of that one is Racial Population Tailoring Confusion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what he was saying really caught my ear, but I was here waiting at the bus stop, whatever. I couldn't hear everything with all the noise, but I was picking some of it up. I just wanted to listen to that. Who is he, by the way? Is he like just a speaker or a doctor? What is he?
I believe he's a doctor, and he's just somebody who actually speaks on some of the things that are facing black people, and primarily in America, the Northwestern Hemisphere, and the society that's been set up against us, and everything around that, from our condition and those who are against us and their methods and agendas that they have against us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what he was saying was really, it really caught my ear. But I'm not gonna hold up the line. I know other people got more important questions. So, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome, and Shabbat Shalom. And Brother Taylor, if you could press 1, we're going to go to the next caller. We have from the 484. We have Sister Simona with a comment and a question.
Shabbat Shalom, Brother Ramar. How you doing?
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
When you were reading one of the articles indicating about the beheaded journalist, I thought it was kind of, it was orchestrated. It was like a false flag. The gentleman who was had his hands behind his back and was just kneeling down, it's like it was just something just to show, and maybe just to warn the people that it's coming soon when we're going to get tortured if we don't submit to the New World Order. So I just thought it was kind of like silly to even show, because it wasn't actually happening. I don't think the guy was beheaded.
Well,
it's like
again,
a false flag.
Right. So again, it serves a purpose. It's a multifaceted agenda. For one, it serves the purpose to incite emotions for people to go to war, because this group is supposedly killing American citizens, but also understand on a spiritual side, these secret societies, we talked about the Memphis Mitzrayim, which is an Arabic Freemasonic order of the Arabic side of Freemasonry. This is part of their 9th through 11th degrees, which is this beheading on a apron. So this is all within Freemasonry as a ritual, and it's a ritual for the old order out and the new world order in. The head representing the old man, that body representing the sleep body, and then cutting your head off to bring in the enlightenment and the new thinking, the new age. So that's what they're conveying with this ritual, and this these fraudulent false flags, as you stated, that they're pulling off.
And another thing is, what astonished me, I know in the Bible it says, if another one comes to you with a different doctrine, you have to turn your cheek. And one person I happened in particular thought that he was a Christian. I brought him in home thinking he was a Christian, and he was a Jehovah's Witness. And one of the videos I wanted him to look at was the teaching of hell. I tell you, that guy who was sitting next to me, he had his head straight to the screen, and not a blink of the eye when he was intense by the video of Brother Rawchaa and Brother Dawala. Brother Lawya was on there. And when since he deceived me, because I thought he was a Christian at first, I said, well, maybe this will enlighten him once he listens to this. Because, see, most of the Jehovah's Witnesses think that when they die, they're going to be like, in a resting phase.
Right.
They're not going straight to hell. They'll be just waiting on the Messiah, and then they're going to resurrect them, and that's it. A little does he know, I said, well, once you look at the scripture and the verse Luke chapter 16. What was that? Luke chapter 16 verse. I can't remember the verse. But I said that's not a parable. That's an actual event that occurred. And then I told him about the book of Enoch and Josephus, to read that, and etc. But after he saw the video, he says, I got to go. And then he starts telling me, well, we have a congregating meeting and stuff. And I'm saying to myself, this guy's got to get out of my house because I don't want to hear no more. So he scrammed after a place after the video. But let me tell you something. He was shaking like a leaf. I'm telling you. He was trembling a little bit. Whatever Brother Rawchaa came across him, he's not going to forget it. His eyes was popping out of his skull. But that's all I'm going to say. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Have a nice night. Bye-bye.
All right, so Shabbat shalom. We have about 60 seconds before we go into overtime, so if you're listening through the computer, if you want to go into the fourth hour, you need to call in, or you will be cut off. The number is 646-200-4309, or you can Skype in through the website. And again, if you have anything you want to say, just press 1, and we'll take your call. Next caller, we have the 803 with Sister Jenny with a question.
Hi, shalom, brother.
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
I'm giving all praises to the Most High. I wanted to ask you, can you explain Luke 24 and 44?
Luke 24, verse 44. Let me get it. Let's see. All right, Luke 24, verse 44. And he said unto them, these are the words which I spake unto you while I was yet with you, that all things must be fulfilled, which were written in the law of Moses and in the prophets and in the Psalms concerning me. Meaning that when Christ came, there were prophecies concerned in the law of Moses, which is the first 5 books, the prophets, and in the Psalms that he had to fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things are documented in prophecy of him coming and what he would do in the earth when he was here. And he's saying that he has to fulfill those things. All those things that are written must be fulfilled.
Okay, so he haven't fulfilled all those things, you're saying?
Well, all the things that are written of him haven't been fulfilled, but he was saying that at that time, while he was there in the earth, that there were things that were written that he had to fulfill while being alive.
Okay, so when Gentiles are saying Christ came and he fulfilled everything, so all that's been done away with, this would be a good scripture to show them, to let them know he only fulfilled the things that were pertaining to him?
Right, absolutely. When it says that he have come not to destroy the law but to fulfill, well, you have to say, well, what does fulfill mean? Fulfill means to execute. He had to come to execute and do everything that was said he must do. So when you come here, when he says fulfill, he's talking about fulfilling the things that were written. For instance, let's get one of those things that was written that he had to fulfill. When you go to Isaiah, let me get it here. One moment.
All righty.
Let me get it. Let's see. So one moment.
All righty.
All right, so one of those things that was said that he had to fulfill, let's see, is actually in Isaiah 53.
Okay.
One moment. I'm bringing Brother Shamnoah Allah. Brother Shamnoah Allah started Isaiah 53 and read verse 1.
All right, 1 second, brother. Okay. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 53, verse 1. Who has believed our report? And to whom is the arm of the Most High revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He have no form nor comeliness. And when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. Verse 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not.
All right, so we know this is talking about Christ here. He was despised and rejected of men.
Okay.
And we esteemed him not. Now jump down to verse 10.
Isaiah chapter 53, verse 10. Yet it pleased the Most High to bruise him. He hath put him in grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the pleasures of the Most High shall prosper in his hand.
So it says, he hath put him to grief, when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, meaning that when he came, he went through the tribulation, he went through the persecution, and then he had to be offered up as an offering for sin.
So that was the sacrifice.
That was a sacrifice. So see, these things that were written of him in Moses, in the prophets, and in the Psalms, he had to come and fulfill all of these things, or the Most High would be a liar. So this is the fulfillment he was speaking of when he says he has come to fulfill but not destroy. Because if he destroyed the law and the prophets and the Psalms, he's destroying all of these prophecies that haven't happened yet. That's what the whole understanding means. It's got nothing to do with not following the law. Brother Shamnoah, where did you want to go in the law? Just to get one more.
Yes.
I was asking you to grab one out the law for. If you
all right, I know in
please.
All right, Deuteronomy. Let me get it. Deuteronomy 18 and 15.
All right. All right, Deuteronomy 18 and 15. The Most High thy power will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken.
So this is talking about Christ, this prophet who was raised up in the midst of our people, who was like unto Moses, because everybody looked unto Moses as that one. Unto him ye shall hearken. Verse 8, drop down to verse 18.
Verse 18. And I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
See that? So Christ came to do the will of the Father. And our people were to do the things that Christ came and commanded them to do. Now, when you link this part right here, you link it in precepts into Matthew. Let me get it. It's or actually it's John chapter 3. When you go to verse 14.
Okay, so that's the whosoever they use when they start at 3:16, right?
Right. So when you go to verse 14.
Speaking to Moses and the people, the children of Israel in the wilderness, right?
Exactly. In John 3:14, speaking of Moses lifting up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So showing that Christ had to come and be sacrificed, and that representing that staff, representing the cross, and that serpent representing symbolic of Christ being put on the cross. The Son of Man had to be lifted up in the same way. So this is what you're seeing Moses doing here and speaking to the children of Israel in Deuteronomy and throughout the rest of the scriptures in the law.
Okay. All right. So where do they get this crazy notion of Christ just fulfilled everything? I know that might be a Roman teaching, but what is with their mindset to lead to that?
Not to keep the law, because let me get a scripture where they got it from. John, same chapter, chapter 3. Chapter 3, and Brother Shamnawa Allah, read verse 19.
All right. St. John, chapter 3, verse 19. And this is the condemnation, that light is come into the world, and men love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil.
So that's where they got it from.
To follow themselves and not the law?
Yeah, men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. When you try to show people the wrong keeping the commandments, they don't want to keep the commandments. They don't want to keep the law.
No, they don't. No.
Their deeds are evil. Why would they want to change if that's... I mean, why would they say, yeah, keep the law when it's going against their whole program of living that evil lifestyle?
Yes. Yes, I can understand that now. That's clear to me now.
So, read the next verse.
Verse 20. For everyone that doeth evil hateth the light, neither cometh to the light, that his deeds should be reproved.
So everyone that doeth evil hateth the light. So when you show them the commandments, which is the light, they hate that because they're doing evil. Neither come to the light because his deeds have to be reproved. He has to change. He has to correct himself, or she. They don't want to do that. Read.
Okay.
Verse 21. But he that doeth truth cometh to the light, that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in the Most High.
So those who do the truth, that say we must keep the commandments and actually execute the commandments the same way Christ executed the commandments, come into the light and show their works, show their faith through their works. Because only through your works is your faith justified. So these people love darkness. They don't love the light.
Right.
Okay, so what is making them use John 3:16 the way they use it?
Say that again?
What is making them use John 3:16 the way they use it so?
How do they use it?
Like, whosoever. Don't matter what you do, how you do it, what you do, whosoever.
Well, the reason that they use that is because they want you to think that as long as you believe Christ came, then that's as much as it takes.
That's good as it gets? Oh, okay.
That's as good as it gets. Like, you don't have to do anything else but believe that he came. Like, throw out the rest of all the other precepts and scriptures and verses in the Bible. We only need one verse, and that's John 3:16. when we have a whole book from Genesis to Revelation? If that was true, why do we have all these other books for? What is that for?
Okay. All right. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. You brought so much understanding to me tonight. And shalom. Love y'all.
All right. You're welcome. Bless you, and Shabbat shalom. All right. And Sister Jenny, if you could press 1. We're going to go to the 504 area code. We have Brother Walter with questions.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
Yes, I had 2 questions. One was, are there any local groups in my area? I'm in Louisiana, New Orleans. If there are any local groups of like-minded people I can connect with out here?
In Louisiana, yes. I'm not 100% sure that there's somebody actually in Louisiana at the moment, but what you're able to do is we have a huge church set up in Texas, in Houston, and in Dallas. So what I can do is I can link you in with them, and from there, if there's anybody in Louisiana, they can link you in with those people that are in Louisiana, and they do teaching. So, whatever they're doing, you can be a part of, with on that level as well.
Okay, that sounds great. And my second question was, can only an elder baptize someone?
No, you don't have to be an elder to baptize.
Okay.
But you do need to have a level of understanding of what baptism is, and be in the spirit and in the in the actual walk to be able to baptize. Like, you can't be baptizing people and you yourself don't have it together. So no, you don't have to be an elder, but typically the elders do baptize because the elders have been put up in position and they've shown a report of being able to hold that down. Because understand, baptizing people is a responsibility. When you baptize somebody, you are responsible for that person. So that's not something that people should take lightly. Like, you're just dipping people in water and they just go off and do off into the world and never be seen again. Like, you must know how to handle that responsibility and what comes with that, and you yourself have to have it together.
Right. Awesome. And I also wanted to donate my time to you guys. I do website and web traffic analyst, search engine optimization, quite a bit of different things in the IT field, and I would love to help you guys. Work on your websites at GOCC and Blog Talk. And anything you guys need,
Absolutely. What you can do is email if you have any of those skills that you can offer. Do you have like a business set up, or are you just offering your skills?
Well, before Katrina, I had my business set up doing PC repair, laptop repair, search engine optimization, and websites. But as of right now, I'm working. This is more of a side project nowadays, until I can get everything back up and running.
Right. Okay, so what you want to do is just email gatheringas1@AOL.com and just state the things that you're able to provide as far as skills to the body. Just make it be known what you can bring to the table, and then the church will respond and let you know where you can be utilized. And also, when we link you in there in your region with the elders that are over that region, then you can also let them know so that they can utilize you there locally where you're at as well.
Awesome. All right. I do appreciate your time.
All right, you're welcome, and thanks for supporting the show. And I'll have somebody contact you here soon. All right.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Shabbat shalom.
All right, bless you. Shabbat shalom. All right, Brother Walter, if you could press 1. We're going to go over to the 413. We have Sister Charlotte with a question and a comment.
Shabbat shalom. How are you?
Hey, Shabbat shalom.
I have a question. I heard you say to one of the other sisters that your dreams could either come from the Most High or the enemy, right?
Yes.
So, in the last 3, I've been in the truth like 3 years now. So I would need to say probably in the last 2 years, the dreams that I'm having have been dreams of warning, danger for me. And I mean, and the dreams, I probably need to give you just at least one example. Shortly right after I came into the truth, I dreamed that there was a news van sitting in front of my house and all kinds of strange people, and they were trying to break in. I had 3 doors in this apartment here, three entrances, and they were trying to break in there. Okay, and so probably about a month or 2 months later, I was actually trying to break in my house. They was trying to get through my window, and the only thing stopping them was the window stopper. Okay, but I've had several, at least 3, 4 more dreams of things happening to me in my dream, and then they have come to pass. So I've always connected them with dreams of, I was being warned. I didn't know at the time when I was dreaming that something was, that these things was going to happen. I would just have the dream, but it would be dreams that I would hold on to and just keep wondering about, because they would stick to me why did I have that dream? Okay, and I would let it go, but then it would come to pass. Okay, also, I had a dream that my teeth fell out. Several of my teeth fell out. And I have this filling in my mouth I've had there 30 years, and it started causing me a lot of problem with my other teeth. So I started gargling with colloidal silver, and then because the filling had affected the other teeth, and so 3 or 4 of my teeth fell out. It happened in the dream, but it also happened in reality too. Mm-hmm. So are those dreams, how do I know if they're coming from the enemy or coming from the Most High?
Well, when it comes to knowing about your dreams, the dreams will line up with Scripture. So if it's something that's lining up with what the Scriptures say, as far as the Scripture's telling you, for instance, okay, dietary law, don't eat pork. And then you have a dream where in the dream you're seeing it clear, the Most High showing something that dealing with pork, and whatever happens in the dream, it just confirms what the Scriptures say about not eating pork. Then that dream came from the Most High. Satan would send you a dream opposite of that. He would try to send you a dream to show you, it's okay to eat pork. Mm-hmm. So we know that a dream that confirms what the Scriptures say is a dream that comes from the Most High. As far as things that you dreamed that didn't happen in real life, I can't comment one way or another whether that's from the Most High or not. Mm-hmm. I could take you to Sirach or Ecclesiasticus chapter. Let's see.
Is that in the Apocrypha?
34.
In the Apocrypha?
Yes, 34.
Okay, Ecclesiasticus 34.
And then, you can just simply basically read verses 1 through 38, and that will basically give you understanding on when it comes to dreams. Okay. For your own personal edification. Okay. You can meditate on those.
34?
Yes, 34 verses 1 through 8.
Okay. All right. Well, so shalom. Bless you.
All right, so good hearing from you.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom.
All right, bless you. Shabbat Shalom. Mm-hmm. All right, and Sister Charlotte, if you could press 1. Let's go over to the 248 area code. We have Brother Earl with a question. You're on the air.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, brother.
Shabbat Shalom.
My question is pertaining to the holy days.
Yes.
I was reading Nehemiah, chapter 9 and 1, and I'm gonna read it. It says, now in the 24th day of this month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting and with sackcloth and earth upon them. Now, from my understanding, are they celebrating the Feast of Booths? Is this the last day of Booths that they're celebrating?
You said Nehemiah?
Yeah, Nehemiah 9 and 1.
No, not Nehemiah. Okay, Nehemiah 9 and 1.
Yeah.
Do you have your radio on?
Oh, you know what? I got you plugged up to these speakers. I'll take it off.
Okay, yeah, getting a lot of echo and feedback.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
The 20th and 4th day of this month. Now we know that, let's see, let's go to Leviticus 23. And we know that the Feast of Tabernacles starts on the 15th day.
Okay.
And goes for 7 days.
Right.
So it would actually end on the 22nd day of the month.
Okay.
So that 24th day of the month is not the holy day we're reading of in the 7th month of the year. Let me see here. Let's see if I can see what time this is. You were just wanting to know if this was actually happening soon, or if this was actually within the Feast of Tabernacles and all of that?
Yeah, I know a little bit about the history of them coming out of captivity, right? And so, Ezra, the priest Ezra is telling them, or was it Nehemiah telling them that today is a holy day, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not so sure if they knew the proper time then, or has the time changed? That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean,
right.
Why are they celebrating it on the 24th?
Well, here's the thing. When you read the chapter before, on the chapter 8, that's speaking of the Feast of Tabernacles. All right? So whatever we're seeing here happening on the 24th day is after that. All right? So, there isn't anything that says on the 24th day that, in the law, that there was a holy day or a day of fast. That's the Day of Atonement was on the 10th day of the month, 7th month. So this, what we see happening, is something that they took upon themselves to do, not as a holy day, but something that they just did within themselves.
Right. Okay.
Because chapter 8 ends the Feast of Tabernacles, which, like I said, it ends on the 22nd. So then 2 days later, on the 24th, they decided to do a fast.
Okay.
Just like if you decided to do a fast Monday, that wouldn't be a holy day. That's just you doing a fast.
So this wasn't the last day that they were celebrating. This wasn't the final.
Because when you read chapter 8, verse 18, read that.
Okay. It says, also day by day, from the first day unto the last day, he read in the book of the law of Ahiah. And they kept the feast 7 days. And on the 8th day was a solemn assembly, according unto the manner.
So they're feasting. Remember, the Feast of Tabernacles is a time of feasting. We're not to fast on feast days. I mean, wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
To fast on a feast day. So the 22nd was the last day, and it's over with. It says up until the last day, the 8th day. And then you go to chapter 9, 2 days later, it says, now on the 24th day of the month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting and with sackcloth and with earth upon them. So 2 days later, they took it upon themselves to just do a fast.
Right. Oh,
nowhere does it say anything about following a holy day or, you
know. Right. Oh, okay. I thought this was that same day because it, you know, I didn't see the separation there. So.
Yeah. And because again, you know, feast days are designated for feasting, not fasting.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that clarifies it. Now, my next question is, you know how they have daylight savings time, and how they, you know, it's getting ready to be fall, so they about to move the time back, right? Now, in keeping the Sabbath day, do we actually go by that time that they set, the time that they set back, or do we just continue? Because you know we shouldn't have the same time as them anyway, the same calendar, and you know, we know that daylight saving time is a hoax, you know. So how do we go about doing that? I mean, are we supposed to go by daylight savings time when it pertaining to the Sabbath? I mean, how do you do that?
Sun up to sundown. Go to Leviticus. Sundown to sundown. Excuse me. Leviticus 23.
Right. Okay. Leviticus 23.
Leviticus 23 and read verse 32.
32. Okay. All right. Leviticus 23 and 32. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls. In the 9th day of the month at even, from even unto even, shall you celebrate your Sabbath.
All right, so all of our Sabbaths are celebrated from even unto evening unto evening, meaning once the sun goes down, starts the day, until the following day when the sun goes down again. Because, again, they can change time, they can think to change times, they can think to change laws, but they cannot change the course of the sun and the way the sun is going up and going down.
Right. Okay.
So that's how we know the time according to the Most High, and being in operation according to His luminaries and to His cycle, and not with the times that they give us.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. That's what I wanted to know, because it's confusing going back, and if you got one of those atomic clocks like I do, it just automatically sets your time, and that's the time frame you're on. You know, I'm looking out the window, I'm like, it's still light outside. You know,
right?
So, yeah. Okay. You know, just for matter, I don't know. This question is, I guess, it's doesn't have anything to do with the holy days or anything, but I've been trying to figure out, like, you know, with the products that we have that we use and stuff, you know, and trying to keep ourselves clean, and pertaining to what we use as hygiene products for hygiene products and stuff like that. What are we putting on our bodies? What are we using for lotions and soaps and stuff? You know, that's clean to use. You know, toothpaste and stuff like that, deodorant, things of that nature. You know, what are we putting on our bodies? You know, to keep ourselves clean.
Well, you just want to deal with natural oils, things that are natural from the earth. Actually, when you go to the GOC net, there's actually a company that actually offers these products.
Okay.
So go to gatheringofchrist.org and go to the GOC net side of the website, and you'll see a company there that offers those organic lotions and oils. So if you just want to deal with anything that's organic, like coconut oil, olive oil, shea butter, jojoba oil, any of those oils that are actually natural and organic that are from the earth is what we should be using. Natural deodorant products. You can actually make a lot of these hygiene products yourself. You can simply make deodorant from baking soda, aloe vera juice, other things like sea salt, adding in natural aromas or fragrances. You can add these things in naturally yourself. You can put in other oils like tea tree oil or eucalyptus oil to help as far as killing off any type of bacteria or anything, or helping to maybe stop you from sweating as much. So, if you just look up natural recipes, they're all out there as far as how you can make your own toothpaste and just from scratch. But we have people in the church that actually offer these products pre-made.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because me and my wife, we've been struggling with that, trying to find, especially with the deodorants and stuff, because none of them seem to work for our chemistry, and we tried this and that, and none of it works. So I'm just, trying to find something, because I told her, you don't want to go back to using that stuff, because you haven't been using it in so long, and you go back to using it, you might start feeling the effects of it. So yeah, it's just hard trying to find things, like that, in your Whole Foods and stuff like that. So, I'm gonna put that out. So yeah, I appreciate that, Brother Ramar, man. I'm gonna let somebody else get in. I appreciate it. You've been very helpful. I appreciate that, man.
All right, well, no problem. Praise the Most High, and thanks for the support.
Shabbat shalom.
All right, bless you. Shabbat shalom.
All right.
All right, Brother Earl, if you could press 248. I'm sorry, if you could press 1 to exit the queue. We're going to go to the next caller. We have from the 413, we have Sister Charlotte with a question or comment. Sister Charlotte is still in the queue. Press 1 for me, Sister Charlotte. We got from the 646, we have Sister Shirley with a question. You're on the air.
Hey, yes. Brother Ramar, how you doing? This is Sister Shirley.
Hey, Shabbat.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, shalom. All right, I had a question, but I have a quick comment for the brother that just called in, about the deodorants and things like that he said wasn't working for them, because you certainly can make your own deodorant like you mentioned, but they do sell, herbal deodorant products for your body, and one of the reasons that they don't work is because of what we're eating. And if we're still eating food that are emanating, getting sour in our stomach and emanating odors from our body that are not, because you're going to get out what you're putting in, that's going to continue to happen. So you need to make sure that they're not eating food that's sour in their stomach or whatever, because when your body's clean, you don't get that much of a bad odor coming from it either. And sometimes you don't even need deodorant when you really have cleansed your system out good. So
you are what you eat.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Now, the thing is that I think the articles that you read today were so good, and some of them were, my goodness, it's almost you start feeling like, well, what do we do in this world? You know what I mean? But you mentioned I think it was last week when you were on, you were talking about, or someone brought out, the idea the Ebola virus has a patent on it. Was that you, Elder? That they were saying that there's a...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people have said it, but yeah, we talked about there being a patent. America has a patent on the Ebola virus.
Yeah, that there's a patent on the virus and on the cure. And I just thought, first of all, if there's a patent on anything, it has to be man-made, man-manipulated.
A creator.
Right. Exactly. It's not something that comes natural from the earth or the environment, or it just happened. You know, this is something this is why they have to genetically engineer the seeds and the foods in order to get a patent on it, or a plant. They have to do something to them in order to get a patent. So if this Ebola virus, if they've got a patent on it, this is a creation, you know. I mean, exactly. Even though we've said that and we talk about it, but this is like proof positive, you know. I just want to say that too. And now my question, I have a question, and that is, when I know that we will be resurrected, those that are resurrected to a resurrection of life, and, you know, others to maybe a resurrection of damnation or whatever. But why is it, since we will be resurrected, why is it so important that there's some of us left on the earth? Because I know that Christ said that time had to be sped up so that otherwise there would be no flesh saved. And so it seems like there's something critical as to why there needs to be the saints on the earth. And I was just wondering if you could kind of talk about that, because with all these things that are coming upon the earth and things that are happening to us, it would almost seem like, okay, so fine, go ahead and kill us, we'll be all right, we'll rise like Christ did, and then surprise for you type of thing. But there seems to be real reason for us to be here, and I was hoping you could shed some light for me.
Yeah, the reason that we must be here, if you go to Matthew chapter 24, Matthew 24, the scripture that comes to my mind is verse 14.
24:14.
Read that for me.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure I got it here. 24 and 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
So, who's going to take the gospel to the four corners of the earth, to the ends of the world, if we're all killed off and nobody's going to do it?
Got it. Yeah. Okay, that's a real good answer. You know, I've read that scripture a million times, but I never, associated that with that. That's good, because, it just seems like we were just fine, so. All right.
Right. Just knowing that the Most High has a will and things that have to be done on this earth, and he uses men and people to fulfill his will. So, so he has to have people here to do the things that need to be done. So he's not going to he's not going to let everybody be killed.
That's a praise blessing, and I tell you that this week was a hard week for me. I had so many things happening back to back, and I tell you, I had to really encourage myself. And I looked at Psalms 27. Oh my goodness, that's a beautiful psalm to encourage yourself in it, and to wait on the Most High, and to wait patiently for Him, and He will strengthen thine heart. And, when we're looking at the things that are going on in this world, sometimes we really do have to encourage ourselves, because you get so discouraged on which way to go, what to do. Do I walk away from my house? Do I, go live in an apartment? Do I sell everything that I own? And it's not simple to figure these things out. And so, you try to wait for the Most High to guide you, and sometimes there's silence, and it's so hard when it's silence, because then you don't know what to do. And my thought would be just to stand still. And the reason that it's even I'm struggling with stuff like that is because, there's so much work to do in the field, so much help that we can do with the elders and the brothers and sisters, and sometimes we get so bogged down with all of the things of the world, and it's like, how can we lay this down? How can we lay that down? And I tell you, it's just not simple. So.
Yeah, and that silence sometimes is just the Most High's way of telling us to sit still and to be patient. Because that's one thing I would say us as a people that we lack is patience and long suffering. That if something doesn't happen when we want it to happen on our terms and in our time frame, then we just throw our hands up and just give up.
It's not true, and I think that's why Sarah and Abraham had Hagar in the mix, and all things like that. And it's like when we don't wait, we start moving, and we make a wrong move. And I know that I'm good for that. Right. Trying to rush things along. So I really appreciate the show. I really appreciate all the information that you guys give, and praise to the Most High, and keep up the good work, Elder.
All right, sis. Well, thanks for the support. Bless you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All right. And Sister Shirley, if you could press 1, we're going to go over to the 816. We have about 15 minutes left. We have Brother Graves with a comment.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Hello? Oh, okay. All praises to the Most High. Hashem Yeshaya, HaMashiach, Rawchaa, and to the GOCC family and all the listeners, the elders, the deacons. I want to give all praises because, I think this ministry has just been, it's Guinness Book. It is world class. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, the blog talks, the Daughters of Zion, restoring all of the ministry is really just world class, and I just can't say enough and give enough praise to that. And spend a lot of time praising it because I really want to scream and shout because it's world class. I don't know how any other way to put it. And for just the listeners who haven't visited the GOCC.org, gatheringchristchurch.org, oh man, it's just everything. It's just like a swap meet where everything's there that you're looking for. It says come and buy without price. I think that's how I'm not sure where that is, but it's just an awesome ministry and really world class. There's nothing that could compare to what the ministry has to offer. And my question was, I guess that was my comment. My question was, you mentioned the Skull and Bones, and they have that skull at Yale.
Yes.
And it's Geronimo's skull, from what I understand. Is that correct?
I've heard that too. I'm not sure whose skull it is, but I've heard that's Geronimo's skull also.
Okay, because I believe they had some kind of court. They took them to court on it. They brought up, they was upset about it. Gad was upset, and they was mad about it. I don't think they ever, were even to bring up evidence that they really had it or whatnot. But is there some kind of significance to them having the skull of Geronimo?
I haven't done any research on that to know. I've heard that that's Geronimo's skull. I haven't done any research on the skull and those intricate details, but I do know that it represents death, and they worship death, and possibly because they know Geronimo being a children of Israel, and maybe other factors revolving around him, if it is indeed his skull, is conquering the tribe of Gad and the children of Israel, and showing it, they got one of the treasures, and I mean, not treasures, but it's a treasure to them. But it kind of reminds me of, if you've ever seen the movie series Predator, where the predator collects human skulls, the skulls of its victims, as trophies.
Right.
So
I do.
that's kind of what it reminds me of. It could be just a trophy.
Okay, and there's so many different things going on today, and I was reading about, and I don't know if you mentioned it, about they said there's 11 missing planes, and that's kind of, it sounds like they might use those planes for the 9/11 anniversary attack. There's so many conspiracy theories out there, and like you said, there's skull and bones on all the clothes and that sort of thing. It's just that today, as a matter of fact, I was giving a lot of thought to the fact that, man, Zion is going to be like coming off the ark. It's not going to be a lot of people.
Right. Not at all.
It's not going to be a lot of people. I was curious, you got those folks that they say they can't read and they don't know, and they kind of like Helen Keller type, they don't, they haven't heard the word. And I was curious what or if there was some scripture about, or maybe an example, and I think that would be the second judgment. But it kind of reminds me of the thief on the cross, and people use that example a lot. But Christ has already went to the throne, to the heavenly tabernacle, so there's nobody going to be able to say that, he told him that. You always hear someone saying on their deathbed or whatnot, well, he whispered in my ear, or, I know he's in a better place, and that sort of thing. And according to the scriptures, well, that's not in the scriptures.
No.
And so, yeah, that kind of, I guess, goes back to what I was saying. I guess you have to, there's not going to be anybody in Zion saying, wow, how'd I get here?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, when you read Galatians 6 and 7, it's clear. Be not deceived, the Most High is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he reap. So you can't mock the Most High your whole life and live wickedly. Kind of like how a kid would be like, nanny, 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 you can't get me. That type of mentality, and then get on your deathbed, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it. I'm sorry now because now you're in a destitute condition. Like, no, you can't mock the Most High like that. Whatever you sow, what you're going to reap. Christ said he's coming back to give according to every man the works which he hath done. You're going to be judged on your works. Point blank.
Okay. And I guess I got kind of two questions. One was Acts 23 and 3. Paul was he was being tried before the high priest Ananias, and 23, verse 3 in the book of Acts. It says, Then said Paul unto him, The Most High shall smite thee, thou whited wall. For sittest thou to judge me after the law, and commandest me to be smitten contrary to the law? So I guess my question is his calling him a whited wall, is that a reference to him being an Edomite or Idumean?
Whited wall. I'm not familiar with that phrase and what he's meaning by what he means by whited wall. I have to look into that. But basically going into what the scripture is saying is talking about the hypocrisy of Ananias. So it could have something to do with that. The fact that you're going to judge me after the law, but everything that you're doing to uphold that judgment is contrary to the law. So you're a hypocrite. Like you're like the Pharisees, how they would try to trip Yeshua up with the things that he would do. Like, you're going to tell me I'm breaking the Sabbath because I'm plucking corn, but yet if you were to lose an ox or a sheep in a ditch on the Sabbath, you're going to go and get them out. So what's the difference between me doing what I'm doing and you doing that? But yet you want to judge me according to the law. You want to try to come against me and smite me after the law, but it's contrary to the law.
Right.
So it could have something to do with that meaning, whited wall.
Okay. And my last question, and I found it in Isaiah 55, it says, Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yea, buy wine and milk without money and without price. And this ministry, I tell you, it's just awesome. If you can get a chance to listen in or visit, it really is helping for our people. I feel like the times that we're living in, it's getting close to Matthew 25, where we got to say, hey, you got to go get your own oil. I'm trying to work on keeping my lamp burning. But my second question is Isaiah chapter 24.
Okay.
And kind of in the side text, it says the earth is mentioned 23 times in this chapter. And in verse 10, it says the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. And I was wondering about if this is talking about Babylon the Great is falling.
Yes.
Okay. And that's really my question.
When you read Isaiah 24, linking in with Revelations 18, and linking in with Jeremiah 50, 51, and you'll see that everything is like, verbatim. When you, word for word almost in the precepts from one to the next, like you're reading almost the same chapter within all those chapters. So they all read the same.
I see. So it's almost like this last beast or this last kingdom fallen is just before Yeshua's return. And that's kind of what the whole thing is just been talking about all along. In
exactly.
A sense. I'm seeing Tyre and Sidon. I was curious, is there a modern-day Tyre or Sidon?
A who?
A modern-day Tyre and Zidon.
Oh, Tyre?
Right, Tyree and Zidon.
And Zidon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be America.
Okay, and I agree with that. Now, and I was looking for. Someone asked me. They said, "Where is cars in the Bible?" And I believe.
Where is what in the Bible?
Well, cars. You know, in 2008 when we had the crash, economic problems, then it was the automotive industry that was going into trouble, and that's kind of how the Arabs are linked into our situation. You know, and I gave a lot of thought to that. I think it's just part of the construct.
Slow down. Let's go. Oh yeah. Okay, listen up, you know what? You don't gotta do that. Put the bottle back down, do not even roll that. Take your foot up off the pedal, park the car and roll back. You don't even need a gun, why you gotta hold that? People pulling triggers, killing brothers, they don't know that. Everything they do is photographed like a Kodak. By the Most High, who's highest up in the sky, who judges all of our actions when after we die. People say I don't believe in him, I ain't getting caught. Well, why you always think you ended up in court? Why you think you always targeted by the police force? And our people never get married, they single, get your divorce. Never have enough money, but always spending the flaws. Pretend they know what they want in life, they all lost. Thinking they African American. I said it, that ain't our history, that is his story, you get it? They feature plenty of movies, million stories and legends, but they never tell you about God, his laws, or Armageddon. I ain't talking about the movie, I'm talking about where we headed. If we don't get it together, you know where we headed. No dressing up how it is, your history's in the Bible. You wanna know who you are, turn the pages like I do. I read, I learned, I figured out who I am. Not from Ham, but from Jacob, from the seed of Abraham, yo. That's who I am, I figured out where I belong. I figured out the plan, yo. You figured out the plan, hold up. You figured out the plan. Beautiful. It's so beautiful, yeah.